welcome to the City of Palm Coast City Council business meeting. Today is Tuesday, August the 27th, 2024. It's 9 a.m. and we are in the community wing of City Hall. At this time, I would ask you to please stand and join me in our Pledge of Allegiance. And following the pledge, you're welcome to remain standing for a moment of silence to reflect, meditate, or pray for a moment. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, thank you, everyone. Please be seated. And I would ask the clerk to call the roll, please.
Mayor Alfin.
Present.
Vice Mayor Danko.
Here.
Councilmember Kloufis.
Present.
Councilmember Pontieri.
Present.
All members are present.
Thank you. With the consent of the council members, since we have members of our utility department here this morning, I'm going to ask that we move the proclamation first so that they can go back and continue to work hard on our infrastructure. Is that okay with everyone? Very good. I would invite all the members of the city employees to come forward and join me at the podium, please. Okay, wow, what an impressive group to see all of you folks here this morning that take care of our infrastructure every single day, 24/7. So with that, let's talk about the specific proclamation that we are going to celebrate today, which I know is near and dear to your hearts, mine, and everyone else's, especially here in Palm Coast and the state of Florida. Whereas all humans, animals, and plants on this earth rely on high-quality, unpolluted water to function, and whereas the United States Congress passed the Clean Water Act in 1972, making it illegal to dump toxic materials into bodies of water, and Safe Drinking Water Act in 1974, protecting the quality of groundwater and public water systems. And whereas, to underscore the significance of water quality across our nation, the United States Environmental Protection Agency has declared August as annual National Water Month to promote civic discourse between communities and their residents on how to best conserve and protect our most precious resource. Whereas for decades, the City of Palm Coast has encouraged and supported education on water quality and water conservation through a wide variety of educational programs and special events. And whereas the City of Palm Coast's Utility Department has received 7 prestigious regional best tasting drinking water awards, being recognized in 2007, 2009, 2011, 2015, 2019, 2020, and 2022. And whereas it is the responsibility of every local business, school system, government entity, and citizen to expect that the quality of our water supply meets the highest standards for the health of our own economy, and community. Now therefore be it proclaimed by the Mayor and the City Council of the City of Palm Coast, Florida, that the month of August 2024 be officially designated Water Quality Month, and urge all residents to safeguard precious water by continuing to support excellence in service provided by our 3 water treatment plants and 2 wastewater treatment plants. Signed today by myself and City Clerk. So with that, I offer you congratulations. Those awards are very, very nice to talk about. So thank you for your efforts. I'm going to ask you, you have such a large army behind you that can you share a few words with us on, on what they're, go ahead.
Sure. So we have a variety of folks standing behind you from all sections of the utility. I'm very happy that they could make it out here today to receive this proclamation. They work hard every day, 24/7, to make sure that we have a good quality of life and great water supply. Thank you.
There we go.
Okay. Good morning, everyone. As what the mayor said, August is the National Water Quality Month, which aims to raise awareness about the importance of water quality and its impact on our lives. It provides an opportunity to learn about the factors affecting quality and the global challenges of maintaining clean and accessible water. The observance encourages education and conservation efforts to ensure clean, safe drinking water for generations to come. Good water quality sustains ecosystems, supports agriculture, and is indispensable for human health. Addressing water quality issues requires a multifaceted approach. Governments, industries, and individuals all play a vital role in safeguarding this precious and very limited resource. Strong environmental regulations are essential. Governments must enforce laws that limit the discharge of pollutants into water bodies. Advances in technology, which we are doing, offers promising solutions. Investing in research and development is crucial to drive these innovations. Public awareness campaigns can educate people about the importance of water conservation and pollution prevention. Simple actions such as reducing plastics, properly disposing of hazardous materials, and supporting clean water initiatives can make a big difference. Local communities like us should be empowered to protect their water resources. Community-led initiatives like river cleanups and monitoring water quality, which we do, foster a sense of ownership and responsibility. Ensuring water quality is not just an environmental issue. It is a matter of public health, environmental stability, and social equity. Clean water is a fundamental right, and we all must work together to protect it. Thank you.
I can't say it any better than that. So obviously, water is indispensable for our future, and it's rapidly becoming the gold or whatever precious commodity you would like to assign to it. So in addition to keeping us alive, it will become more and more precious in terms of the investment it takes for municipalities, states, and the entire country and world, for that matter, to continue to make it a priority. So even though, we're celebrating this month becomes more important than any other month in our history, because the quality of water and the availability of water is becoming more of a challenge than ever before. So I thank you for all of your efforts. And with that, one more round of applause, and then we'll get your picture.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you, team. So I 6 it. Got it.
Okay, we'll now move to what now becomes our second proclamation presentation item, which would be discussion by City Council regarding district seat for vacancy. Does staff have an intro for us?
Excuse me, Mr. Mayor.
Oh,
do
sorry.
we need to go to public comment first, or we
Well,
jumping ahead here?
yeah, it follows on the agenda. It follows on the agenda. Did you want to?
We kind of skipped over one thing, but
Which
now we
one?
need to back up, don't we?
Well, I'm looking at agenda. My agenda shows E as public participation, preceded by letter D, which would be a discussion, which would be the proclamation, the discussion by City Council, and finally, the proposed budget for all approved funds.
All right, seems a little out of order, but okay.
So good morning, City Council. So how you saw on your agenda with the resignation of Councilwoman Hyder, what we're looking today is a direction to staff for some type of proposed procedure and timeline if you guys choose to appoint a member to the seat.
Okay, I guess, well, this discussion. So the first question, if I may, I would ask staff, is there an application already available for applicants to fill out and submit?
Yes, Mayor, the application is ready. We just need to know from City Council when you would like for us to release that application.
Well, the first question would be, do city council members have any question regarding the application itself? Councilwoman Pontieri?
Oh, go ahead.
Well, I think we're skipping a crucial step, which is to discuss whether or not we're going the appointment route, and if so, why, from a legal standpoint. I think
Okay.
that's imperative to kind of explain, particularly from a legal standpoint, if you could, Marcus.
So, yeah, I can happily do that. So under the city charter, I believe it's Article 4E, where it says, if for any reason other than a recall or suing the office of mayor, a vacancy occurs in the office of city council within the first 2 years of a term, the office shall be filled by an appointment within 90 days following occurrence of such vacancy by a majority vote of the remaining councils. If said vacancy occurs within 6 months of the next regular scheduled election, the remaining council members may delay the appointment. Such appointment shall last until the next regular scheduled election, at which time the seat shall be declared open and an election held for the remaining 2 years of the term. So right now, Councilwoman Hyder, she resigned with more than 2 years left on her term. So it is this position of my office that you as council have the position, according to how the language is written in the city charter, to appoint the next council person for that seat.
So if I understand your question becomes, are you looking for this city council to conduct this process, or perhaps extend it until the new council sits? Is that your question?
No,
Okay.
I think it's very clear that we have to appoint within
Okay.
90 days, which would be before the new council
Right.
is seated, if we choose to appoint. My question is, from a qualifying standpoint, if we were to go the election route, could candidates legally qualify, is number one. And number two, because I want this to be a democratic process if possible. I don't know that that's possible, which is why I'm looking to legal opinion for it. If it is possible, is it then practicable? And in the, I think ballots have to be printed by what, September 6th?
Yes.
Okay, so in less than a week's time, what would be the qualifications or the requirements for candidates to be able to be named on the ballot?
So great question.
If I may just
Yes.
boil the question down. So what we're going to be considering here is if there were to be an election, are we affording, is it a legit process? I mean, is it so short a window? Is it fair? Does it give candidates a chance to present themselves so that the community can actually vote with some understanding and knowledge?
Well, more than that, Mayor, honestly, what my biggest concern is because we know that if we go the election route, the candidates cannot qualify via petition because the petition process is already closed. So in other words, they would have to pay the fee in order to run, and I don't want our city council seat to be bought. So my concern is that if within the next 6 days, well, maybe a week or so, that we're giving somebody the opportunity to essentially, who lives in this district, so we have a limited pool of people to begin with there.
Or not, they could move into the district.
They could move into the district
Right.
in the, less than 3 months, so it's not very much time.
As a rental.
Sure. But then to pay roughly $2,400 to qualify, and that's a concern of mine.
Is that the number, by the way?
I think
That
it's
seems.
10% of the salary?
It's 10% of the salary, which is.
And there's 2 fees, right?
Yes. So the 10% of the current salary is $3,249.07, and then there's a 1% assessment fee that's generally filed during a normal qualifying period, and that's $324.91 that goes to the state.
So $3,500 in about a week's time, I think that we would be severely limiting our pool of candidates, and I also feel that we're essentially selling a seat, and I'm not comfortable with that. So that's why I ask legal, am I incorrect in my assessment? Is there any way around that in order to make this an election without, is there an ability to push off the qualifying, or can they even legally qualify? I don't know, but I'm not comfortable saying we have a week to essentially have somebody pay $3,500.
And I want to agree with you on this 100%. I don't want to see anyone buying a seat.
Right.
I don't think there's enough time. We've all run campaigns. There's not enough time to, get on the ballot and start campaigning and make a decision to even do this, this falls on this council to make this appointment. There's no doubt in my mind. I agree with your assessment, Marcus, that we need to do this. So I'm hoping we all agree on that and we can move forward and get this ball rolling. I would like to see us possibly put a time limit of 3 weeks or so on this from today forward to get people who apply, and then get them back here so we can make that decision. And most importantly, I think, is we need to get whoever that person is, and we don't even know who's going to apply yet, but whoever that person is we select, I'd like to get them on this council as quickly as possible so they have some experience going into the next council, because 3 of us aren't going to be here, in case you guys didn't notice what happened on Tuesday. So I think it's important we get someone in here, not wait till December, but do it as quickly as possible so they can at least get their feet on the ground and have a taste of what's going on.
Let me restart my conversation. So do we have an application available that we've used in the past, and does City Council okay with it? That's sort of like a first step.
We do have an application, yes, Mayor.
Have City Council members had a chance to review it?
It is the same application that we used for the previous appointment where Mr. Finelli filled that seat, so there were no changes made to the application.
Does anyone have any issue with?
How quickly can you get that link posted on our website so anybody who wants to apply can download it, fill it out, and get it back?
So first, are you okay with the language in it? I just want to make sure that.
I'm fine with the language.
You are, okay.
Yes.
So we're all good. We're all good with the content, other than the dates on the last application that was used. So now to Vice Mayor Danko's question about, well, this council will now decide a procedure, a process. So there's an application. So does somebody want to suggest a process?
How quickly can you get it up there on the website? So somebody, if we say, let's start today, can it be on there this afternoon?
Yes, we could do it this afternoon.
Okay.
Let's do, put it up there this afternoon. We give 30 days for submissions, and then the following business meeting or workshop that we get together, that we go over the qualified candidates, and then at the next business meeting after that, we appoint.
So let's just, good, so there's a process and a procedure suggested. I just want to be confident that you all feel that 3 days is a wide enough window.
At least a week. I wouldn't say 3 days.
Well, asking.
I think
so-
that's a little short.
I
You
didn't,
said 30 days.
30 days, I'm sorry, yeah, yeah.
30
No,
days,
I thought you
think.
said 3.
30 days, sorry about that.
Okay.
yeah,
Oh, I
30
thought you
days.
said 3 days. I was like,
oh,
whoa.
no. That's muy
You
rápido.
got somebody on the
Question.
inside you're running here?
Now, I have an opinion that 10 days is enough if for an applicant, for anyone that is really interested in following this. And I'm flexible, but help me understand what the extra 20 days accomplishes.
Really just a number off the top of my head for establishing a process. If we do 10 days, and then would you like to do a workshop where we have interviews before we have a business meeting for the appointment?
That was what I was thinking.
That's also very
That's
valid.
that's all in the open, that's all in the public. If a particular city council member would like to meet with an applicant on their own, that's their own business. Yes.
Mayor, I have a suggestion, because I did look at the specific calendar of our meetings.
Yep.
So if we opened the application today, we could give 2 weeks to close on September 11th. And then we could do a special workshop on 9/17. That gives us all about a week to look at the applications. Interview them the following week on 10/24, and then appoint on 11/1. And the reason I suggest that is because it gives the public ample opportunity, once the application process is closed, to come and make comment. Because this is not because it's an appointment, like I said, I want to make this as much of a democratic process as possible. So if we allow a couple meetings where the public can come and speak, then I think that that's the most prudent way to go. And I think that it accomplishes by 11/1 your suggestion, Vice Mayor, that we get
So
somebody
we
in
would
here.
actually seat them on 11/1.
Yeah, so I agree with your concept completely, because I think the one thing that has not been said yet is this appointment will be for, 2 years plus, 2 years plus, with an opportunity, in the plan I envision, of a chance to run.
Oh, absolutely.
Hold on, we have to run as an incumbent, which would also offer them a chance to run yet again if they were successful in the first run and the second. So potentially, this could be a 10-year seat. So the decision being made here is significant. Now, there are a lot of factors. It's not a 10-year seat, but it potentially could be. So I just want that made clear to everyone.
I think it's very.
Counselor, have I
important. Go ahead.
missed a step here? Is that the way you understand it?
So I'm just saying what you said. So yes, they would finish the 2-year term, and then they're allowed to run for another 4 years.
And the fact that they are filling out a special term does not accrue to term limits, is my understanding.
I would need a little more time to make sure I give a confident answer on that, but I believe that's correct, but
Okay.
I would need a little more research to confirm that.
So we're at either 6 or 10 years. I mean, it's a little bit far out in the future, but okay, so we understand the gravity of the
But
decision.
I think it's very important. Last time, we handicapped.
That's why I'm bringing it
the
up.
person
Right.
By saying, you take a pledge not to run, even though they could have broke that pledge. I think that we shouldn't do that. I think that, if you step up and you do this, you have every right to
Vice
run
Mayor,
again.
we concur. We have consensus on that.
All right.
So I do have an issue,
Yep.
Mayor, with meeting with the applicants not in the sunshine. And I would look to.
You mean personally, as an individual council member?
Yes. I do have an issue with that, only
Okay.
because I feel like there could be, picking of candidates based on what we discuss with them as future policy
But
decisions.
can you prohibit such a thing?
I don't know, so I'd look to council for that.
I don't think we can, is the thing. And
Then-
I'm not a proponent of it. I'm against it, by the way.
So then my suggestion to council would be to avoid the appearance of impropriety, and let's try to keep things in the sunshine. That's just my position.
And mine.
I feel that it's one thing when you've got candidate, like right now, we have a few seats where there's a couple candidates that have made it past the primary. We're one vote out of several thousands. We don't know who will win those seats. So it's okay to meet with both of the people who made it through the primary. But in this instance, when we have a certain definite pool that we're going to have a significant impact on who takes this seat, I think, I would just say, move forward with caution.
I'm just concerned, though, that we're making up our own law. If sunshine applies, then it applies. If it doesn't, it doesn't.
I don't disagree with you.
And I don't want to sit here and make up our laws. If any council person, yourself, Mr. Kloufis, the mayor, had somebody that they know, that they think is qualified, that would serve on this council and do a great job, I think they have every right to speak to them, encourage them to apply.
Well, that's
You
why
know,
I
we're not
asked.
giving away any state secrets here. If you attend the council meeting or watch it online, you see what we discuss. So I understand what you're saying, but I don't have those concerns.
Well, that's why I asked
Yeah.
legal counsel, is this a potential similar situation as to where, because a candidate-elect is a violation of sunshine. If you have a candidate-elect that we meet with, then it is a violation of sunshine. If we have a finite pool of applicants, is that a violation of sunshine? I don't know, and so I look to legal
But is that any
counsel.
different
So
from?
we have a
just
precedent, we
quick
have a
question.
precedent from before, so it was not before.
But
But-
yes,
Was the
exactly.
question
And-
asked? Was it asked before?
But the question
Yeah,
is,
I think I did pose it, but it's good to ask counsel again. I don't have a problem with that.
just to be
Yeah.
clear, if you had 3 candidates running for an office in November,
Mm-hmm.
one of them is going to be elected. So you can't say sunshine applies to all of them because no one's been elected
Oh,
yet,
no, it
and no
does.
one's been appointed
No,
by
no, I'm
us
s-
after they're elected.
So if we're talking about the election and the primary, my understanding is sunshine does apply.
What, a candidate talking to another candidate?
No,
Candidate-elect.
candidate-elect.
But none of those candidates running would be candidates-elect until they won the election. None of the candidates coming in front of us would be a
So
candidate.
I can only
elect.
share my instructions. My
Until-
instructions when I was elected were that once.
Elected?
No.
Elected,
No,
when you're
no, no, no,
candidate
no, no.
elect.
While I was in the, call it the primary pool.
Yeah.
That I could not, that I was covered by sunshine. So I just need an
I'm
opinion on
not
that.
sure on that.
I mean, does it really matter?
Not really if we abide, but Marcus, can you give us an answer on that? When does sunshine light up a candidate?
So I would say, without looking at case law,
Yeah.
sunshine usually applies when someone's the elect. But I can give you give me some time today to do a
Okay.
little more research, and I'll get you an
All right,
answer
so it's
before
not really an
COD.
issue then.
Once they're
Does
elected,
that,
candidate
Teresa,
elect.
does that satisfy your question?
I would like the further legal.
I'll comment that I've been part of this process now at least 3 times.
Yes.
And each time that this has happened, we've had stellar candidates come forward. I think it's a little more advantageous for people who are upstanding in our community because they don't have to be put through the rigmarole of actually going out and become a candidate in that entire process, which is taxing on someone. We've seated Councilmember Finelli, Councilmember Lyons, Councilmember Cuff, and I even believe Councilmember Net. So potentially I've been part of 4 different assignments here, and I think that to give the public some rest, we've had tremendous candidates step up every time, and I don't expect this time to be any different.
I agree.
You excluded me from that pool.
Oh, I'm sorry, yeah, Mayor Alphen, yeah, sorry. Forgot about that.
Do you want to restate?
Mayor, can I confirm the schedule?
Yeah, that
Just-
would be good. Yeah,
okay.
that should come from you.
Just
Thank you.
trying to make sure I heard you correctly. So the application would be live this afternoon. We'll work to get it up once we've concluded your business meeting today, and it would be open until September 11th. There would be interviews on September 24th during a workshop, and appoint October 1st. Did I get that right?
I would suggest we do interviews during a special workshop on 9/17, just to give the public one more opportunity to voice opinions and to more, engage council.
How much time does it give you for the application
Because
process
then,
then?
it doesn't change the application process. It gives us a week from the date the application process closes to the interviews, which I think is enough time to
Okay.
look at the applications. And then we have another week of public comment and then appoint on 11/1.
Okay, so have interviews on September 17th. That's a regularly scheduled business meeting, so we'll conclude a workshop following.
And open a special, yeah.
Okay, and then we would have a meeting on September
Is that a
24th.
morning, by the way, or an evening?
Morning meeting.
Morning, okay.
And then we would have a workshop on September 24th where the public would be able to voice opinions again, and then appoint on October
Right,
1st.
is there an evening session in the middle of this timeline?
October 1st, whenever you do your appointment, is an evening
The
meeting.
folks could appear in the evening if
give
they had
their-
comments to express, so you've got both day and evening covered.
We really need a special workshop on the 24th for this. having been through this before, I don't think we do.
I think we do. This is too much of a big decision, and if we're going to do the interviews during a special workshop, it allows people to come just for that process. And again, I think that we need to give the public every opportunity to be present and be involved in
So
this.
when did you, Vice Mayor, what were you thinking?
I mean,
Make
I was
it
thinking-
part of another meeting?
I was thinking we're going to have public comment before we appoint.
On what day?
On October 1st, I was thinking that was, where we hear from the public, that would be the most efficient, and actually, that would be right before we make a vote, so if anybody was going to present something to us, I think that would be the most influential from the public. I don't see the need for another workshop on just this item. It
I'm
just doesn't make
uncomfortable
any
with,
sense
I'm
unless.
uncomfortable with the comment on the same day as the vote, yeah.
Mayor, if I can, the reason also September 24th is during your last business meeting, you gave me direction to go back and put a schedule together for those additional workshops each month to help work through some of our bigger items.
So it fits the
that's-
schedule anyway.
Yes, Mayor.
Okay.
So we would be having.
You're going to be here anyway.
We're going to be here anyway?
Yeah.
Okay, well, then I guess we could squeeze it in.
There you go.
But
Okay.
And I just want to, on the application, you're talking September 11th, end of business day? What would be the cutoff, 12 noon, end of business day,
Yes, we can do by 5 p.m.
by 5 p.m.? Okay.
That'll give us enough time to make sure that the applications are in your agenda packet and public for your September 17th business meeting, or workshop. I'm
When
sorry.
you post the application, this entire timeline will preface the actual app, or be a part of the application offering online. Just help me, in what other ways will the application be available to potential applicants?
It'll be available online and in person at the clerk's office.
At the clerk's office, are there any other places or things that we should consider? No, that's what we've done in the past?
Correct, Mayor. That's what we've done in the past.
Now, in terms of making people aware that the process is going on, I would like to hear, how are you going to announce this? And because as Councilwoman Pontieri so rightly says, and with the idea that this could be a very long, standing seat, we should, I don't want to say spare no expense, but we should use all of our resources to let the entire community know that this process is going on. If we look at the results of the turnout of the primary, it should be a clue that we need to work harder to get people more involved. And if we want transparency, unfortunately, we have to shine the light a little brighter to get people to be aware that this is an important decision and they should follow it.
Understood, Mayor. We'll put together a communication strategy and use all of our
Okay,
outlets to
good.
get this out.
Do you have any input or comments on that? I think that's as
No,
far as we can go.
I think that's very important,
Yeah.
that we make sure we use all of our outlets to get the information out and to keep the public updated as to, hey, we have a meeting coming up, come speak on public comment regarding the seat that will be filled. It needs to be a constant over the next month.
And the last question, it'll be up, will you include a map or make it clearer what the district geographical boundaries are? I mean, not everybody is fluent in each district's boundaries, and this one actually encompasses, a few different sections.
Yes, Mayor. We can make a link to that district map on the website.
Wonderful, very good. Okay, if there is no further, yes, sir.
Just based on what Councilwoman Pontieri did ask, based on my research on the case law right now, there is no sunshine law that prevents you to individually meet with the candidates.
Thank you for that.
If there's no further discussion by city council members, I would open up the discussion for public comment. And yes.
Good morning, everybody. Candy, P-section. Mayor Alphen said something that caught my attention. Somebody can move into the district and rent a home and then get appointed to the seat. That's buying the seat. That is buying the seat, just like what you said, because let's say there's somebody that wants to have their hand in all the development that we're trying to get away from to slow down, and somebody wants to fill the seat that you're vacating by sitting in that seat. So they have the money to say they're renting in this district and really living in another home over in the hammock, per se. I think when you guys look at the application process, if somebody's renting, because I did rent for a few years before I bought my home, they must have been here for at least a couple years. It can't be somebody that just moved into a rental 90 days ago. How could they know everything going on in Palm Coast? It's a very tangled web we weave here. It's hard to catch on to everything unless you spend a lot of time looking at stuff. That's why I'm here all the time now. So I'm just saying, and you're saying, oh, it could be for 10 years, so you can have your little hands and everything for 10 more years. Didn't we vote you out? We don't want another you sitting in that seat. So please consider how long, or if not rental at all. I just don't think that's fair. If somebody's going to say they're going to rent in that district to be one of your buddies on this, sitting on the seat again. I'm sorry, I don't want that. I don't think anybody else that's standing behind me does either. I'll yield the rest of my time. Go ahead, Jeff.
Thank you for your comment. Next speaker, please.
Good morning, Jeffrey Seib. The city of Palm Coast is about to embark on an unprecedented journey as we face the unparalleled event of an almost complete turnover of the city council occurring at one time. The orderly transfer of authority on a smaller scale has always taken place, but this is something different. The risks are great and the rewards unknown. I've been involved with the city council since before Palm Coast was a city. At the time of incorporation, the entire city council was selected by voters with no mayoral position. The mayor came later. Since then, it's been 3 at one time and 2 the next every 2 years. The purpose is to maintain some continuity and stability for the city council, so that's why this is a new ballgame. Past resignations, like former Mayor Holland and Council Member Bedosa, have always occurred in between election cycles. The City Council needs to be at full strength. Each district needs a council member. It's important a new council member be appointed to fill this position as soon as possible. It's also imperative that this appointment have a very temporary time frame until a special election can be held. With 2 years left in the District 4 council seat, it would be too long of an appointment by the council. The voters of District 4 must have the opportunity to choose their representative in a reasonable amount of time. A special election is costly and cumbersome, but alternatives are few. The City Council has already postponed their selection of a new city manager to allow the new group the opportunity to choose their individual. Other issues that would have a long-term effect may also be delayed for the new council to put their mark on or to possibly redo items. Essential council decisions must be made to keep city operations in order and functioning at the highest level of service we have always expected and received. Government is tough. Thomas Paine in 1776 said, "These are the times that try men's and women's souls." Let's get it right.
Thank you for your comment. Next speaker, please.
Cameron Orr, Comanche Court in Palm Coast. I wanted to speak a little bit about sheltering of animals in Florida and in Flagler County this morning. Because I've got a lot of figures here, I emailed my comments to you, Mr. Mayor, to each of the council members, and to our city manager. The data I'm presenting is off a University of Florida Veterinary School website. I've referenced that in the email that I sent you. The data table is readily available. At the end of 2023, there were 156 animal shelters in the state of Florida. 63 of those were municipal shelters. 54 of our 67 counties have municipal shelters. Unfortunately, Flagler is one of only the 13 that do not have a municipal shelter. 38 of those 63 shelters are run by the county itself. The remaining 25 are run by cities within the county. Flagler County currently only has one private shelter, our Humane Society, a 501c3 nonprofit organization. They celebrated their 40th anniversary just a short time ago. 40 years ago, Flagler County was 14,000 people and the city of Palm Coast didn't even exist. Today, our county is over 130,000. According to data in a Palm Coast Observer interview, the executive director of the Humane Society mentioned that they're currently housing over 100 dogs. They have 55 permanent shelters, permanent kennels at that shelter, and that means the remaining dogs are either doubled up within a kennel, kind of a dangerous situation, or they're housed in what I would classify as residential crates, which are maybe suitable for 2 or 3 hours, but not 20 hours a day. Flagler County and Palm Coast are experiencing explosive growth. And so along with that, we can only expect that animal care issues are become more of a problem. I think the city can be proud of their current animal control organization under Ms. Grossman. They have good relations with the city, with the sheriff's office, and with the shelter. Flagler County relinquishes their animal control duties to the Humane Society. And that approach has often resulted in tensions between themselves and other organizations. It's time to consider building a shelter within this county. And be it city or county, I would strongly suggest that the city work with the county to establish a shelter going forward.
Good. Thank you for your comment. Hold on 1 second. So I can split up the public participation into 2 parts, but the gentleman had already started, so.
We're focused right now on public comment concerning this one item, correct?
Well, and then we'll have to move to the
And then
other,
we'll
the
go
rest
to
of
regular
public comment and
comment
break it up
when
into 2
we're
parts.
done. So let's get past this candidate thing first and get this off our plate.
All right, I don't have a problem with, thank you, sir.
So,
So the following speakers, if your comment is not related to the appointment of a new city council member, just hold off for a minute until we finish this subject, and then I'll come back to you for that, okay? So just be comfortable up there for a minute, and we'll get back to that. So comments only regarding the appointment. Please come forward.
Hi, James D. Yeah, Ms. Carley's right on point with all the assessment of this whole thing right here.
Hey, sir, bring it a little, that's it, bring it a little closer so we can hear better.
Okay.
There you go, thank you.
So Ms. Carley's right on with all her comments about this whole situation. You know, a few years ago, we did have a vacant seat, and Mr. Finelli filled it, and, you know, he talked a good game, but in the end, he voted against everything we wanted. We don't want someone like that again filling this seat up here. It was my impression that you're going to throw somebody in there right away temporarily and hopefully, and possibly go for 2 years. We don't want that. We want a special election, and I think you're on the right path to that. So if you have a 90-day timeline, then we have to do a lot of work to get candidates up there if they're going to be in there for 2 years, 6 years, 10 years. So, yeah, we need to get that underway. And I see you have all your layout here for special meetings. How about, you know, a few more nighttime meetings so more people can attend? For right now, I believe should not be voted, for the end of your terms, not be voting on anything major as far as building and construction, because, again, a lot of damage can be done before you leave office. So, yeah, I know it costs money for a special election, but, you know, we've wasted money on a lot of other unnecessary projects, and I know we've got a 25th anniversary celebration coming up for the city. How about we just scale that down and divert some of that money to put towards the election? That way we can cover that and not have to worry about expenses. But, yeah, we need to have someone that we need to put in there that we can trust and get these candidates moving right away. And why 3,500 hours to put up? Well, I don't know how we can scale that down any other way, but you know, we need to put the person in there that we want, and as soon as possible.
Thank you for your comment. Next speaker, please.
Hey guys, how you doing? I'm Steven Swarner. As you guys know, I did run for the District 4 seat, and I stepped out because I'm a father of 4, and I wanted to spend some time with my kids. So Kathy Hyder was an acquaintance of mine at the time, and we discussed it.
Steve, just this is not an interview, so just
I
make your
completely
comments.
understand it's
Okay.
not an interview.
Okay.
I'm just wanted to come up here and let you guys know that I look forward to working with you guys in the future, as I am going to jump into that application spot. And I also want everyone here to know, whether it's the $3,500 application or the appointment by you guys, I hope to gain all your trust, all right? That's all I wanted to say.
Thank you for your comment. Are there any yes, ma'am.
Celia Puglisi, live in Palm Coast since 1991. I think it's a very bad thing what is being proposed here by the whole council, which is appointment. This appointment, I totally agree with candidate Mr. Saib, that lived here 29 years. This appointment should be a very temporary one until a complete election that can be held on March, because in March there are some local elections with the SOE. We have in time for March for having an election for the people that we need in the council. When we have a campaign, we can really search and check the profiles of each candidate and who donates for them, which is very important. You know, we don't need a special interest anymore. We don't need PACs. We don't need developers donating to the people that is going to serve us, because this is what has been happening. Mr. Fluka mentioned all the appointed candidates before, and I live here since 91, and the worst of them all was Mr. Nets. They were all nothing for the residents and all for a special interest. So what I'm saying is this: we need people that represent us, and all of you are proposing just to elect somebody that is going to be here like John Nets, making a disaster of the Matanzas golf course, on all the things that we have had wrong in this city for 10 years. I believe he was here 10 or 11 years. We should not have that. We don't deserve that. And I am a little minority here, voice, but you know what? I represent all the people that is behind me that don't want this. And I will appreciate if everybody that doesn't want to have here somebody elected by you for 10 years will raise their hands now, because we don't want it. We need right now people that we can elect on a special election. Please, Mrs. Poncheri, do that. You are the only vote that we trust here, and we need that, no matter what the attorney says. I consider he's a very novice attorney. He doesn't know us as well as all the fights what we had. This council, at this moment, is going to make an election with 3 of you that have been denied to continue serving us here and in the county, because all the time that you have ignored our pleas against sales towers that we had to fight with attorneys, and it cost me $1,000 and many other people $1,000, against the losing of our resort harbor site with 372 local jobs, to more housing on the Contra-Costa front, that we might lose even the gas station for all the voters in Palm Coast, of all the approvals of all this up zoning and spot zoning. Stop. We need an election. Name somebody now to have one person, and in 2025 we need an election. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your comment. Next speaker, please. All right.
Yes, good morning, George Mayo. I'm fully in favor of appointing somebody immediately to fill out the 2-term. You people have been honest enough to me, competent enough to me for the past couple of years making decisions for the city. I agree with Mr. Danko. We need an appointment to fill out those 2 years. We don't need to spend the money on a special election. We've seen where we've elected people and they've turned out to be people we didn't think they were, and they were only in for 1 term. So I'm good with the appointment. I hope you can do it as soon as possible. And point of reference, Ms. Pontieri, you referred to as appointing on 11/1, you said. I believe you meant 10/1, so just to clarify that. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment. Are there any other? Yes, sir.
Mark Webb, W section. Sorry. I just have a quick question of clarification with the attorney. The 90-day cycle, does that start at the resignation day of Kathy, August 23rd?
Is that
so 90 days from August 23rd puts you in the middle of November, far after the election day? My question is, aren't you taking out of disrespect the elected officials that'll be on this dais, elected by us, to make the final decision of who would fill that seat? That's a question you're going to have to face the voting public, depending on how that decision is made and who gets to sit her. do all you want with the meetings, find great candidates, put a lot of effort. That benefits the new people coming in, but the decision needs to be held, and I believe based on the math I heard, after November 5th. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment. Any other speakers? Yes, sir.
Morning, Council. Dennis McDonald. I'm real uncomfortable with anything other than an election. And I think everybody sitting behind me, for the most part, it feels the same way. And I think the city feels the same way. Essentially, we just went through an election with some very startling results. Those results are going to put 3 out of 4 seats here, with new people in them in a matter of months. And so I think it's a real mistake if you can't have an election where we can go and vote on the person who's going to take Ms. Hyder's spot, okay? Then I think the thing to do is put this whole thing off, okay, until there's a new council that's sitting that we just voted for just last week, okay? That's what should be going on. The people that should be selecting, if the attorney says that the only way this can be done is an appointment, okay, that's what the charter says, we'll go with the charter, okay? But it doesn't say that the people that are going to be sitting in those seats in a matter of a couple months can't make that decision, because I believe there's a 90-day space in there. So, I would encourage you to just gracefully bow out of this, okay, and not force this on to the people of Palm Coast. And I'd like to comment about something that Celia said. The people that you appointed into those seats, okay, they may have felt good to the people who were sitting on the council, but they didn't feel good to the residents of this city. And I have to tell you, for one, I'm tired of expensive green water for us to drink. I'm tired of having to pack a lunch to get down one end of 100 to the other. Okay, and I'm tired of looking at flooding in people's homes and their lives totally disrupted. That we need to make some really big changes in the council, and we have. We made those recently, and we're going to make more in November. So please, bow out of this, I ask you, okay, and let the new council pick. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment. All right, next speaker, please. Let's have respect for the next speaker, please. Thank you, Yes. We're still... This is regarding the appointment, right?
Good morning.
Don't worry, I'll get to you.
Good morning. Ralph Lightfoot from the F.
Yes.
For once, I agree with McDonald. I think that put yourself, those of you who want off the council, put yourself in the shoes of the people who are in the runoffs. Wouldn't you prefer to have to decide on who you're going to be working with for 2 years? To me, that makes a lot of sense. But what I'm disappointed with is that those that are in a runoff, except for Jeffrey, I would be here talking to you guys about this possibility, of the people in the runoff making that decision. I'm disappointed that they're not here to address that particular case. Those that are in the runoff, they should be here saying what I'm saying, that they should be given the opportunity to make the decision on who they're going to be working with for 2 years. Thanks.
Thank you for your comment. Anyone else on this issue? Yes, sir.
Mike Norris, Tulima Place. I spoke with Katie this morning over at Supervisor of Elections office, and we're not going to, you have to go by the charter, plain and simple. You have to go by the charter. So the next election is the one coming up in November. I'd say open up the application for 5 days, try to get it on the ballot, and let it be democratic. I know you're worried about the money, Ms. Pontieri, but we're going to see who the community supports if you get 2 or 3 candidates on that ballot. So I would suggest I'd open up the application process for 5 business days, get it to Katie so she can get it on the ballot, and go from there. because everyone in this room wants it to be done democratically, and especially right now, everyone's saying they want a special election, which Katie said it probably costs us over $100,000 to do a special election, which it violates the charter technically, because you appoint or the next scheduled election. So I'd say open up the application process for 5 days. Everyone with interest for that slot applies for the slot, and have Katie put it on the ballot if we can meet that timeline. I would say in 5 days, you could do it in 5 days, because they're not going to go to print until they have the names on the ballot. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment. Anyone else in the public want to comment? Yes, sir.
Good morning.
Morning.
Ray Stevens, Seminole Woods. I would like to echo the statements of the previous speakers in respect to a special election as opposed to an appointment, whether it be done in secret or in public. Provisions can be made to have a special election if you have a 90-day window to appoint somebody. It could be a temporary appointment, and to give the supervisor of elections and/or the clerk time to have a special election. It's my understanding that usually happens. This supervisor of elections makes provisions for elections in Flagler Beach or in Bunnell in March. And this special election would reduce the cost if that were held at the same time. And I think that the people are entitled to make this choice, not for all intents and purposes a lame duck city council. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment. Anyone else? Are there any other speakers that would like to address this issue at this time? Seeing no one come forward, I will close public comment, and I will come back to the dais. I think I need to go to council first. So just talk us through, if there were to be an election process, I'm really interested in knowing how much time would candidates have to make their candidacy and platforms known to the public.
So as Councilwoman Pontieri said, we have till September 5th to get something on the ballot with the supervisor of elections. If you read the charter as drafted, unfortunately it says it's to answer one question, appointment within 90 days. So once Councilwoman Hyder gave her resignation, this council has 90 days from that resignation, okay? There's another nuance that we need to realize, is that just because you're elected doesn't mean you automatically take the role as council. Our charter says it's just within the next business meeting after the general election. So I forget the date of the general election, but it would be our next business meeting after that when they would take office, if someone is elected, okay? So just food for thought on that.
Marcus, can I just stop you? Can we get the date? Because I'm glad you brought that up, because the 90-day window is outside of the new council taking their seats.
That is correct.
So new council cannot appoint. It would not be the new council. What is the date that?
Have it scheduled for December 3rd. That's the transition.
So that's the problem. I mean, this resignation, God bless her, the date was not ideal, because it does put the appointment outside of the possibility. From a legal standpoint, our charter does not allow the new council to appoint. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay, so I think that takes care of part of the issue, of the concerns from the public.
The other issue, our charter does not say anything about a special election. It says the next regular scheduled election. So it would be my advice that a special election, unfortunately, is not an option. I wish it was.
And the election in March isn't even for Palm Coast, right?
It's for Bunnell.
So I feel like there's even more of a disconnect between that.
Yes.
Well, I did ask legal. I talked to Mr. Blocker about the possibility of adding this election to the Bunnell election just to save money. And the issue was brought up about polling locations. Will there be voter suppression if we don't open up all the polling locations? And I don't want to do that. Obviously, I don't want to cause any voter suppression. So, I mean, I think we've looked at this every which way from Sunday to try to do the best we can. And again, it's just, the timing of it's just very unfortunate.
I think, to be honest with you, from a legal standpoint, the timing is your biggest thing you have to overcome. Timing is not the best scenario here. And theoretically, yes, next regular schedule.
Marcus, stop there for a second,
Yeah.
just so we're clear. You say timing is not, what'd you say, is not our best?
Timing is our timing is our biggest obstacle right now. If this was
So
done
wait.
earlier,
So it is an obstacle that we can overcome or not? Let's be really clear now.
I'm not so sure, to be honest with you. It's
So let's
because
be clear about it. If we can't, we can't, because I want the public here to understand, these are not decisions that this city council is making. This is what the charter says, and it's not a
charter-
maybe, it's not hard, it's like it either is or it isn't.
I don't, from a legal point, it doesn't talk about it. Your charter says within 6 months of a next regular scheduled election, you have a week to qualify. I've never seen a candidate have a week to qualify. That's our issue. I think my recommendation in my previous advice to you guys is do a point so that we're not rushing this process. I have some hesitancy rushing the process, getting someone to qualify, that something might be missed. So that's why my recommendation is to go forward with an appointment from the language that your charter is written as.
I agree with you, Marcus, and I think it's important to also understand, if the public doesn't like the person this council appoints, in 2 years, they can unelect them.
Yeah.
So they got a 2-year window here to see what this person does. But I think also Mr. Norris, excuse me,
Those are the facts.
I think Mr. Norris brought up the fact that this would probably, if we could do a special election, it would cost $100,000, and we can't even by charter do that in that period of time. But I do want to make a couple of notes here. As far as I'm concerned, just me, my vote on selecting this person, if any applicant moves into that district just to get elected to this council or appointed to this council, they will not have my vote. So anyone out there thinking of moving just to get
Okay,
this
so
will lose
let's-
my vote instantly.
Let's just qualify that with the attorney in
I
terms of.
understand that people
In
can
terms of the
move-
definition of an elector.
I understand people can move into a district, obviously, but we'll know that, and you will lose my vote at least.
Okay.
So that's one vote you won't get. The other thing I wanted to bring up, because someone brought it up also, was we've added this additional meeting to our schedule, and they've said, how about making it nights? And I think that might be something this council needs to consider now. Maybe we should open it up to a second night.
Isn't that other meeting right next to it a night?
No, but we only have one night meeting.
No, but did you want to have 2 nights in a row?
Yeah, I think, no, we're talking about adding that meeting at
Well,
the bottom.
but one of them already is a night, right?
Well,
No.
is there any objection since since we decided if we went this route, the interviews would be a special workshop after the business meeting?
Yeah.
Is there an objection to making the interviews a night workshop?
Well, I'm thinking about making that extra workshop a night meeting.
Well,
We're adding an
no,
extra
it
workshop
gets
on our
added. It
regular
gets added
schedule.
to the night meeting, and then you have a special workshop. Is that what you're saying?
No. What I'm saying is, so was it the 17th or the 24th that we were going to do the interviews?
The 17th,
So the 17th, we have a business meeting already, right? That's a morning business meeting?
Mm-hmm.
correct?
What I'm suggesting is that we make the interviews a special workshop at night so that people can attend and actually see who is coming forward, if there's no objection. I know we'd
So
have
that
to
would be on the
leave and come
20
back, but I think that's the best way to do it.
on the 24th then, right?
What
Or-
date would it, last one?
I'm confused
by
City
these
manager.
dates.
So you have a regularly scheduled business meeting at 9 a.m. You would conclude that meeting, and we would do a time certain of a special workshop to interview the candidates on September 17th. And what I'm hearing is that you want to do a night meeting, so 6 p.m.
Not what I'm
on
saying.
September 17th.
I'm a little confused here. Or as Nick would say, who's on first, right?
Go ahead, put it on your calendar.
We've added an additional workshop
Yes,
to our
you've
schedule.
asked to
Right.
add an additional workshop,
Right, and that's
yes.
a morning workshop.
Correct.
Why don't we make that an evening workshop
It-
going forward?
If that's the direction from city
In other
council.
words, we only have one evening and then 3 morning meetings that we've scheduled. Why don't we split that up and make it an evening meeting? Because I think the gentleman brought up a very good point. A lot of folks don't come here in the
Yeah,
morning.
that's
They're
fine.
working,
Tell me
whatever.
about the 17th now.
So I'm not talking about making that an evening. I'm talking about changing that additional workshop we've added. to
Which
our
was
schedule.
scheduled for what day?
The 24th.
A regular, you've asked to add an additional workshop.
What
would
date is
be
that?
September 24th.
So you want to make the 24th an evening?
I want to make all those additional workshops an evening
Well, I think
meeting.
you only have one.
No, we're adding one a month, right?
One a month,
Yes, thank you. I don't
right,
remember
so
us
what-
voting on that. I
All
know
right,
we
so
discussed it.
what dates are those special workshops? Do you have that?
Would be the fourth Tuesday of the month.
And make that an evening each?
If we're going to do it, and I'm just confused, did we actually approve adding this, or did we just reach a little consensus?
Consensus.
Okay, so then I'd like to see a consensus. We make that a night meeting instead of a day meeting.
The fourth
The 4th.
Tuesday
Yes.
of each month.
Yes.
I'd have to ask, so first of all, with staff, what are the implications there? I mean, I don't have a problem with it, but what does that mean for staff?
I mean, we would have, majority of all of our directors are salary, right? So we would be here. And then if we had any other hourly staff members presenting, they would be presenting in the evening.
Okay.
My opinion, I think that's probably something that we should do. The public's been asking for it, but from an implementation perspective, it's also important that we denote how much it actually is going to cost the city to have a nighttime meeting. When you have all of the directors and all of the staff here, it's an unreasonable expectation that they're just going to report back in the morning at 9 a.m. when you can have meetings that go to 11 p.m. when they have been here all day anyway. So I think from a practical implementation standpoint, we need to be understanding of our employees, but I think the public wants to have a secondary night meeting. But the truth be told, that's why we have a night meeting and a day meeting for our business meetings, so that anything that is a resolution which requires 2 readings is opened up to the public for people who work in the evenings, people who work in the mornings. One of those meetings should be available in their purview, but I think we're hearing we want more evening meetings, but please be aware of the implications that's going to have on our staff.
And you're also setting a precedent for the future city council.
They can change it if they don't like it.
Yep.
Okay?
Yeah.
Okay.
City manager, do you have a comment?
I just want to make sure, because I think we were talking 2 different directions, right? The first direction is just clearing up your special workshop on interviewing the candidates. You want to make that in the evening.
That's
No.
not
No.
what I asked. No.
Okay.
That's where
So
we got confused.
it's going to, that is going to be when we conclude the business meeting. So we're going to try and make it time certain just due to other people's schedules. And then the second thing is that you give consensus to add an additional workshop to your calendar each month, and you want that meeting in the evening.
Correct. And do you have the ability, the flexibility with salaried employees of adjusting their schedule to compensate for, like, you're going to be here late tonight, so tomorrow you can come in late?
We try.
Okay, good. That should
Doesn't
solve
always
that.
work out that way.
No, but you do have that flexibility to adjust schedules. like
Right,
that.
yes.
Yeah, so I think that's an answer to that, too. With salaried employees, it's like, you're staying late, but come in tomorrow at 11, or whatever.
Only
you
if
know,
they
when the
wouldn't,
cat's
they wouldn't
away,
be
the
able
mice
to
will play.
perform the tasks that they were originally scheduled to do.
Well,
But-
same if
but
they
okay.
called in sick,
I-
they wouldn't be
I
able
thi-
to perform the task, so it's
okay.
one day. I mean, it's one day.
Councilwoman Pontieri, comments. I think we've overcomplicated. We've gotten past the point where we unfortunately cannot, according to the charter, move forward with a special election. I think all of us would probably prefer that if it were possible. No. Excuse me. I'm talking, and I'll have public comment again. I think we all would prefer that route, but council has advised us that that's not a possibility. So, go ahead.
I agree that the workshop on the 24th should be a night workshop. I got to say, I'm still up in the air whether or not it should be a regular night workshop. I can't say that I necessarily agree with that at this time. So I don't want to represent, and I also want to make it very clear that when I had previously suggested there be a 4th workshop, we did not have consensus because Councilwoman Hyder was not 100% sure. So I just want to make the
Okay.
record very clear on that.
Are you okay with going with one? And then we can decide from there.
I
and
am
we'll
okay
roll
with
it
that.
forward,
And
as opposed to making it an ongoing policy.
I think, to your point, this could be further figured out, because I think, isn't this specific issue on our agenda for a workshop? Or was it not?
I thought we reached consensus, to be fair. I
Okay.
thought Ms. Hyder was the only one who wasn't in consensus.
Right, so that's not,
Not a consensus.
that's not consensus.
Well, it's
We
not
can put it
major-
to
it's
a
not-
vote.
No, it's not
Yeah.
unanimity, but it's still consensus.
That's still consensus.
Okay, well,
But the point is,
I just want to make sure.
Vice Mayor, if we roll forward with one, and then we talk about it if we need more with Councilwoman Pontieri, does that help?
I just, for staff considerations, I am concerned. I mean, I get it, they have a job and they're supposed to be here, but we tax them a lot for these presentations.
But one is okay, it's a special circumstance.
Yeah, I think so. The
One is
24th
okay.
should be
And
a
on the
night
staff
workshop.
issue, I'm sorry. You know, I was a salary employee at the 3 major networks I worked at, and I worked 70, 80-hour weeks or more when needed.
Okay.
And that's what being a salaried employee means. So I don't, one meeting, I just
But
don't.
let's do one, and then we can roll it forward further. In other words, I don't think anybody here, I don't think the majority here is willing to set policy right now. But we are willing to go with one meeting to at least get us over
And then at that
this.
meeting, we.
We could talk about have another one, yeah, if we need it.
Oh, so we're not setting a permanent.
Correct.
Night workshop.
Correct.
A permanent workshop we're not scheduling.
No, that we already did. We added another workshop, but we're not adding it as a permanent evening workshop. Right?
Well, I think the public's going to want it in the evening, but let's go forward with one, and then we can have this
because,
conversation
one will get us
again.
through this
But-
issue.
But I think the public for so long has been demanding more night
I agree.
time.
I just want to
And-
think
And
about
I
it
don't
more.
want to deny them that at this point. I think
Right.
it's fair.
And like they said, it might be better for the next council to roll that around.
Well, again, the next council would have the ability to do whatever they wish.
Right.
So it doesn't really matter.
Let's get through the issue that we're talking about now, which is the appointment. That's key. Further comments?
Yes, I have one more comment, specifically to the issue of vetting candidates, being able to research them, et cetera, because I do feel the public that, the beauty of an election process is that the democratic process does what it does. People can do research. They can go on social media and voice their opinions. This process, what we're doing, I think, we are moving forward expeditiously, but we're not rushing it. It still allows people to see exactly who has applied, because we're cutting it off on November 11th, and then we're not making the appointment for a few more weeks. So you still have the ability to research. Right, October 1st.
You said November.
Sorry. I don't know why I have November stuck in my head.
You're stuck on November.
I'm waiting for Thanksgiving.
I was going to get you at the end, but okay, keep going.
Yeah, so October 1st. So you do have a few weeks to research them. Now, with regards to, if there's an election, then we can see who, if developers contribute to campaigns and things of that nature. I think that only tells you so much. We have had people elected, to someone's point, made this point. We've had people elected that, got into office and then didn't do things that they promised, or did things opposite of what they promised. So I think that we're doing the best thing for the charter. And again, my concern is that if we require people to pay $3,500 in a week's time, we are allowing the seat to be bought by special interests. And that I have a real issue with.
So let me ask you a question. And council, stop me here if I get in trouble. Does city council have the ability to waive that fee because of the special nature of this election or process? It's just a question.
I don't think so, because then they wouldn't qualify.
No, your city charter.
Charter is too specific about that.
The city charter says, submit a petition supporting his or her candidacy to the city clerk containing the signatures of at least 1% of the electoral residents. And then it goes in, if they don't do that, then they have to pay, which what Ms. Cook already said is the 10%.
And there's no other option. That's just those two. Okay, all right.
And then the other thing that I wanted to address, Ms. Stevens' comment about the residency, and this somewhat addresses your comment as well. In the application, we'll see all of the different, criteria filled out by our applicants. We can consider all of those things at that time. So it's not as if, someone moving into the district lately so that they can apply for this seat isn't something that we can't consider. It's always going to be a consideration, just like everything else.
And you're an example of that yourself.
I did. I moved into the C section in
Right,
order
so,
to run for the seat. Absolutely.
It would be a consideration. And,
Well, you
and Vice
moved in-
Mayor,
yes,
you've made
but
your point clear.
You
We
moved
understand.
into it, and then you ran for an office.
I was in there for a year too,
Yes,
but yes.
yes. You didn't move into it just to get appointed 2 weeks, 3 weeks later.
That is very true.
There's a big difference there.
But my point is that it's going to be transparent, right? People will know that, we will know that, and it's something that we can consider along with everything else.
Yes,
It's not something that'll be swept under the rug or kept from the
I
public.
just don't want anyone to think you did anything wrong. You know what I mean? You didn't just move in there so they could appoint me the next day. You lived there for a year. People knew that you moved into it. You bought a house there, so.
I did buy a house.
Yeah, you didn't rent a place, a room, or anything of that nature, so I don't want that to fall on you in a negative way.
I appreciate that. Yeah.
Certainly you're not suggesting that there's an issue with renters, right?
I'm not not suggesting there's an issue with
Okay,
renters.
just wanted to be
I am
sure.
suggesting if you rent a room just to get appointed, you're not going to get my vote.
Councilman Clufus, any additional comments?
No, I think we've been very clear. We've heard from the public, and despite us being terrible people who are going to be forced to appoint someone, it's not really in our purview to be able to decline the situation that's upon us. So here we are, we're following our charter, we're following our council, and yet we'll still be portrayed as individuals who are doing this to perpetuate our own initiatives. But in the reality of things, I hope that we have a quality set of candidates come forward and we can select one that's going to be able to do
With
this.
the city council,
Can I just make one more
Of course.
clarification? Sorry, I think this is really important to point out, too. Even if we did choose to go the election route for somebody to be elected this November, they would still have to run again in 2 years because we still have to
Right.
stagger those elections. So whether or not this is an appointment or it's an election, this seat is only 2 years.
Correct.
They have to rerun
correct,
again.
very clear. Now, with city council's consensus, since the conversation has been complicated, especially in terms of the calendar, I am going to allow the public, I'm going to ask you, I'd like the public if they have any additional comments, just to close this off because it's important. Do you have a problem with that?
Well, I just think our hands are so tied.
Do you have a problem
we
with
don't
public
really-
comment?
No,
Okay.
I'm just saying, though, I thought you were going to, what I wanted to ask is, do we do this by consensus, or do we need a motion?
Oh, no, we're going to do a vote.
Oh, we're going to need.
Oh, yeah.
Okay,
But
okay.
I've already had public comment, but it got complicated.
Yes.
Are you okay with additional public comment?
Of course.
Of course.
Councilman Clufus?
Sure, I feel like this could have been about a 20-minute conversation, but yeah, let's.
I think so too. Yes, sir.
Mr. Mayor,
All
are we
right.
talking, hold on.
Yeah.
Normally, we don't allow people to comment on the same issue twice, so we're talking about new people commenting, correct?
No, I'm talking about anybody that wants to
I just
comment on
wanna
this
cl-
issue,
I-
so it's
I
clear,
want
yes.
clarification
I'm
of where you're
accepting
going.
public comment. I am the presiding officer at this meeting, and I'm going to allow public comment on this issue because we've all agreed that it's special and it's rather unique and important. So please, yes, sir, go ahead.
Yes, Mike Norris, 2 Lima Place. I think the election is the best way to go because between the time they put in their paperwork to be certified for the election, it's only going to be like a couple of day turnover on Katie getting them certified for the ballot. And the public will have time to vet the candidates up to the general election because these news outlets, Ask Flagler, Pierre, Palm Coast Observer, they did a very good job in vetting candidates for this election that just happened and leading into the general election. So I say the best way that's going to satisfy the public is to let it go to ballot. If people are really wanting to run and represent the city, these citizens are going to vet them because they've seen what's happened in the past. So I would say go with the election, give them 5 days to get their name on the ballot, and let the public decide leading up to the general election.
Thank you for your comment. Next speaker, please. Is this regarding this issue?
A little bit.
No, it is or it isn't. Otherwise, I'll reserve your public comment if it's for a different topic. We'll get there, but is it regarding the appointment of the vacant seat?
No.
Okay, thank you. So we'll get you. Yes, ma'am.
Good morning. I'm Paulette Hatfield from the F section, and I just want to say we elected you to make decisions based on what the charter says. You have to go with the city charter. You can't make your own decisions because the public wants you to make them. So let's try to find some way for the community to all pull together, accept and respect the people that we voted for, to make the right decision. When the lawyer says the city charter doesn't allow that, you can't make a change just because the public wants you to. I appreciate what you do. I know it's not an easy job, but from a standpoint, the public needs to be more educated. And one of the things they can do is join the Citizens Academy. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment. Next speaker, please.
My name is Celia Puglisi, and I did the Citizens Academy over 20 years ago with my husband then. Okay, what I see here, I kind of disagree a little bit with our council. It's like the council in the county, oh my God. My issue is this. It reads the charter that if the person's been in the council for over a year, it requires a special election. So what I see, what is being played here is the 90-day window. okay? I just don't really get this advice of not having a special election in March when we, the people, want it that way. It is the 90-day window. I hope it's properly interpret the charter. That's the only thing I'm asking you. And please, take in considerations what the people want. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment. Next speaker, please.
James D. This is a special situation, a very unusual situation, and we may need to, nice to bend a little bit. First of all, we said if you point someone there for 2 years, we don't like them, we can vote them out in 2 years. A lot of damage can be done in 2 years. That's why we really want to elect somebody. And according to the charter, I know the special election, but again, we want to have someone in there we can depend on. And Nick was saying, well, you're going to tax people out, having extra nighttime meetings. I worked for the post office for 20 years. Christmas time, that's a taxing time of year, working extra hours. So this is only temporary. Don't worry about your staff, and you said you're on salary. And as far as these nighttime meetings, no, I don't think you are setting a precedence. This is just, again, temporary for a special situation. Let's bend a little bit. And if we can bend a little bit to get the people on the ballot, and this $3,500 is going to probably eliminate a lot of people. Maybe that's good, maybe that's bad, but we really would like to be able to get our choice in there. If it's going to be a long term, 2 years is long enough for someone to do a lot of damage if it's not the right person. Let us make the right decision or the wrong decision for that person. You point someone you don't know. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment. Last speaker, please.
Yes, George Mayo. I live in District 4. Everybody else here speaking may not live in District 4. They can call their representatives as they can right now. I can't call anybody with a comment, complaint, or question. I would like to see that seat filled as soon as possible,
Okay.
so I have representation.
Thank you, sir. Yes, sir.
Dennis McDonald. Sitting back listening to what was said, to Councilwoman Pontieri's point, and one of the things kind of is a gray area for me. Can you have the the city attorney, and by the way, I'm all for following the charter. You got to stick with the charter. Can take him the interpretation of Ms. Hyder's resignation. I know the letter was written on the 16th. Okay, I know that it was fully out in the public almost immediately, after that she had resigned, okay? And I believe that her letter said it was the 23rd she was resigning on. So there may be some wiggle room in that if you're missing by a couple days, Teresa, on the dates, because that is, maybe those things are not governed by the city charter. So if you could have him take us through that, I would appreciate it.
Thank you for your comment. Okay, any other speakers? Thank you. Then I'll close public comment on this issue. The resignation became effective on that Friday, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes, as of August 23rd.
In writing, I haven't read it, so help me with it.
Yes, and if you take that to the day where the new council is supposed to take their first business meeting, it's December 3rd, which is 102 days.
Okay. So it's pretty clear. Very good. Okay, with that, final discussion by City Council.
I'll go ahead and make the motion.
Wait, hold on. Yes, thank you. But any other, just
Okay.
I'm trying to make sure that we do this as correctly as we can.
Dotted all the
Any
i's and
final
crossed all the
comments?
t's, I believe.
Councilwoman Pontieri, I know we're torn with comments here, but it's that time. Councilman Clufus, any final comments?
Nope.
All right, then I will accept the motion.
I'll make the motion that this council appoint the replacement for Ms. Hyder, following the schedule that we've laid out with the applications being online today, by the end of business today, and giving candidates up to September 11th by 5 p.m. to complete and return. Interviews on September 17th, an additional workshop on September 24th for the public comment, and then the appointment on October 1st, correct?
Correct, and that the 24th will be an evening. I just want to make sure you have that in there. Good. Okay.
Terrific.
So there is a motion. Is there a second?
Sure. Second.
Councilman Clufus has seconded the motion. Now, discussion. Any final discussion? I see you thinking.
Well, she's trying to get those months correct.
No,
October,
no.
November, right,
It's
Teresa?
important, so I want to make
Get
sure
it
that
right across
everybody has had every chance they can to talk this through.
Yes, I think, and this is to no disrespect to my colleagues, I recognize the issue that we just had an election and that the election results were what they were, and that now we're having an appointment done by those who unfortunately were not successful in their elections. I recognize that gravity. I will say my biggest concern is that I think we will get more options and more quality candidates for our city that can be more properly vetted by both the public and this council through the appointment process, rather than rushing an election that essentially is, in my opinion, going to end up being a bought seat. So I just want the public to understand, I hear you, I really do, and I really urge everybody to please talk to your neighbors, talk to your association presidents, talk to community leaders, and get them out here to these meetings, to talk to us, to let us know, hey, we had this interaction with this applicant, or we know that this applicant has done XYZ in the community for so many years. Educate us. Make this the democratic process that I want it to be, even though we are appointing somebody, because you did elect us to make these decisions. And I think that we can only benefit from more public input through this process. So I am begging you, please get people out here, get them to email us, call us, come to the meetings, and make public your voices and your opinions on the applicants. I just feel that this process will give us more options than rushing something in a few days.
Very good. Thank you for your comment. If there are no other comments by city council members, then I will ask for a roll call vote.
Vice Mayor Danko?
Yes.
Councilmember Clufus?
Aye.
Councilmember Pontieri?
Yes.
Mayor Alfin?
Yes.
The motion passes unanimously.
All right, now, with city council's permission, again, there are folks that want to make public comment. I had to divide the public comment up before. If you don't mind, before we get to the proposed budget appropriated funds, can I have general public comment, and then we'll have public comment about the budget by itself as a single item? Fair enough?
Mm-hmm.
Do I have that from everybody? Okay. Public comment, please, on items other than the appointment and not related to future items on the agenda. Thank you for your patience.
Good morning.
And yeah, bring it down so we can
Yep.
hear you and
Good
introduce
morning.
yourself. Good.
Sue Rowe from Palm Coast area. Good morning to all of you and council members. In response to the Hyder resigning her seat, I am here for about Flagler Humane Society. I only mention that because several comments were made on social media about Vince Lyon being a good interim replacement for her. As appointed interim counsel in 2018, when Stephen Noble also resigned his position on the council early, I do not know Mr. Lyon personally, and remarks are in no way reflection of how well the job was previously done. However, there are two big conflicts where Mr. Lyon is concerned about candidate city council currently. First, the fact that the county is presently investigating complaints about Flagler Humane Society. Second, one of the Flagler County Board of Commissioner members commented during the 8-5 meeting about a current criminal investigation into a Flagler County animal control officer for animal neglect and animal cruelty. This animal control officer works directly under the director at Flagler Humane Society. Mr. Lyon is listed above and an active board member for the Flagler Humane Society. That is a conflict of interest. Wouldn't this be the impression of a possible conflict of interest, as well as having animal control in the Flagler Humane Society? I have talked before about, please think about another shelter to house our animals in this overcrowding and much of the neglect that has taken place at Flagler Humane Society in the overpopulation of animals across Palm Coast. In my opinion, the City Council will be in negotiations for a contract with the Flagler Humane Society coming up. A Flagler Humane Society board member should not be one of the City Council members deciding on such a contract on the city's behalf. A group of people have emailed Flagler Humane Society to the directors, members. We've sent certified letters, tried to be connected by phone, and even sent the letters being certified a meeting. We are asking for a meeting with the board members to discuss the conditions at the shelter. Many of the ongoing violations of their SOP that the executive director provided to Flagler Live for everyone to read. At the moment, we've had no response of our requests from our board members, including Mr. Lyon. Doesn't seem to affiliate with the Flagler Humane Society. That could cause the conflict of interest. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment. Next speaker, please.
Good morning. Ann Thompson, talking about the Flagler Humane Society. Last month, I sent an email to 5 board members of Flagler Humane Society, which included letters from some volunteers asking for a meeting with the board to discuss our concerns for the animals. They did not respond. Last week, I sent certified letters to the same board members, which included letters from 7 volunteers requesting a meeting. As of now, there is no response. My main concern is that of the enrichment for the dogs. They have playgroup 3 days a week for a total of probably 12 hours per week. Playgroup is an awesome idea, but those dogs still spend 150 hours per week in their kennels, and those not able to go to playgroup spend even more time there. The changes that have taken place in animal welfare over the last few years is huge. Research will tell you that any dog left alone in his kennel for hours a day may go mad. There are so many enrichment ideas out there for these unfortunate dogs to make their lives more bearable. Simple things as hanging a frisbee on the front of a kennel smothered in peanut butter and feeding their meals in brown paper bags so they have to work to find their food. Both of these are very stimulating for the dogs. There are many more ideas out there that are used every day in the rescue environment, and FHS could implement these. I researched the approximate cost of these 2 ideas and came up with the amount of probably under $400 a week. The shelter last year took in over $4 million. This works out to less than 0.5% for these 2 easy steps. But why won't they do it? That is why I am requesting a forensic audit of the Flagler Humane Society. Where does all their money and donations go? Finally, the word is out that FHS Animal Control Officer has pending charges for animal cruelty. Requests for public records on this matter are not forthcoming. If charges against this officer are pending, why is this person working with dogs daily? If this person was working with children, we would be seeing a different situation. Yes, we are working for a new rescue kennel in the area, but we are also demanding change at FHS. We are a voice for those stray, abused, unwanted, and neglected animals. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment. Next speaker, please.
Jeffrey Seib. The presence of water is the most important item in the list of requirements for life as we know it to exist. A spotlight, however brief, on the characteristics and quality of our water is especially important. A review of the city's annual water quality reports show that the safety of our tap water is consistent with most other community water resources around the country, due to the water treatment requirements ordered by St. Johns River Water Management District, the State Department of Environmental Protection, the Federal Environmental Protection Agency, and the hard work, as we have just seen, of our city employees. Some of the chemicals found in all municipal water systems and most brands of bottled water, unless that water has been bottled on a glacier or mountaintop, like some have, also have the presence of synthetic substances in extremely small quantities that unfortunately are impossible to be totally eliminated without extreme methodologies and costs. Chemicals such as arsenic, chromium, lead, Nitrogen from fertilizer and herbicide chemicals are, sadly, found in our aquifers right now. And if our aquifers are under stress of being pumped out as new growth brings more thirsty people, these pollutants will be more concentrated and require more treatment to stay at the safety standard level we are at right now. The quality of water in our freshwater canals is not of drinking water standard, but should be capable of supporting aquatic life. On many, if not all, freshwater canals in the city at this time, we see large clumps of algae, which, if not controlled, can eventually rob the water of oxygen and causing a fish kill. Much of the growth of the algae is due to being fertilized, like any green plant, by lawn fertilizer runoff. In addition, the herbicides used on lawns as weed control, that runoff, can also contribute to this poisonous mix. Our canals are not sewage dumps, so should be protected in order to provide all of us with the flood protection and natural environmental enhancements that they were designed to do. Water quality and quantity is important now and forever. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment. Next speaker, please.
Celia Puglisi, Palmco, since 1991. I'm going to speak for all the animal lovers here that have compassion for animals and we care, whether wild or domestic. I also see what is happening with our current Humane Society, which is privately owned. I yet don't know why it's privately owned, because originally their land was donated by the founder of PAMCOS, which was ITT. So I yet don't understand being a private organization, which of course doesn't have sufficient transparency. They just get the money. I mean, 4 million income revenue for the Humane Society for what they are doing with the animals. They are too much euthanizing. I don't understand that, and I think if the city, we collaborate gladly, you know, as a taxpayer, I am glad of that. We collaborate with the Humane, and the county does. Maybe the city should have one of the council people sitting at their board. But you're going to say, oh, no, because they're private. Then, if they're private, we need to fund our own public city or county-owned Humane Society, where our people, where our dogs have more transparency on their treatment, on who orders euthanasia and how old is an animal euthanized and why. I mean, it is not like we are on a meat market here. We need to have compassion for these animals. And one of the things that the city and the county needs to do, and the city should start, is start shutting all those for-profit little puppy mills. You know, everybody goes and buys a cute puppy for the little baby, and when the animal grows up and takes big loads and it takes a lot of care and money, they dump them on the shelter. So, you know, should not be those private or organized puppy mills, and they should have some requirement, at least, of what the animals are going to end up with. Because this is very inhumane, what is happening in the city and county with those animals that are dumped there because somebody decided that they're not part of the family and they are 2 years old and too big to handle. So please, let's think about what our Humane Society volunteers are asking you, have our own government-owned shelter, which we can have some transparency on what money comes in and how it's spent. Because I can believe that our Humane Society has an income of over $4 million, and dogs are euthanized at the rate that they're doing.
Thank you. Next speaker, please.
Good morning, Mr. Mayor and council members. Thank you for the opportunity to speak. I, too, am here as an animal
Just
lover.
introduce yourself just for the record, please.
My name is Scott Hunter. I, too, am here as an animal lover. Both of my dogs are rescue animals, and they are the most amazing little creatures in the world. I don't think anybody, not even a human being, looks at you once they realize that you've saved their life and changed their life the way that a dog does. And if you can't see that when you look at the dog, well, I don't know what's wrong. My comment, I understand the shelter is doing what they feel is the best that they can with what they have to work with. There's no immediate solution, I get that, but it has to be better. It has to be made better. So one of my questions is, I don't know if it's feasible, plausible, legal, or anything else, but I recently read on social media that there is a board position open on the Humane Society board due to a death. Is it even feasible, seeing as you give the shelter in the form of a contract a lot of money to handle our animals, our tax dollars, could you stipulate in the contract that you get to appoint a board member? Somebody that would be responsible, would oversee what's going on, and hopefully make sure that things are happening the way they're supposed to, per their own SOP. I would really be curious if that's something you could look into. And thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker, please.
Good morning, Dennis McDonald. To kind of carry forward with the theme here this morning of the election that we just had last Tuesday, and I don't mean this to include everybody here, but we had some really astounding results. And I think this is a start of a new movement in Palm Coast, which we kind of started up 4 years ago when we organized Protect Palm Coast. So what I'm seeing here is, and what I have in this envelope is just a couple of them. I have a whole stack. I'm sure all of you are relieved. Your mailbox, when you go to it now, is no longer jammed full of flyers from someplace in Tallahassee, one certain suite number that everything comes out of. Dark money, let me speak on that. This is going to be the election of the end of dark money, I hope, in Palm Coast, okay? Every one of us was just besieged by dark money all the time. We never got, it's interesting. I saved everything, and you know, we didn't get a lot of advertisements from candidates directly, but we got just many advertisements from PACs, okay? Florida Values, American Values. I mean, the names go on and on, but they all go back to one address in Tallahassee. And so we all know what's going on. It's all dark money. So I'm very hopeful that with the results that we had, okay, that we are becoming aware of dark money, and that every time you get one of these flyers in your mailbox, it isn't from a specific candidate that took the time and the effort to pay for it and proof it and make sure that it was correct. Everybody in this city should throw it out. It's garbage, okay? You know, and I think that we're turning the corner on that, and I'm hoping that this whole state turns the corner on that, okay? Because dark money is buying in elections, and I appreciate everything you did in trying to do the right thing to get a replacement for candidate 4 that will be the most responsive to the voters. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment. Yes, sir.
Mark Webb, W section. I couldn't leave today without extending a huge thank you and applause to Flagler Beach for lowering their speed limits for pedestrians. Some on the board here know that I've been working for 6 or 8 months to acknowledge the city streets without sidewalks in this city are dangerous. The law specifies that you have to step into the swell to stay out of the public street. We attempted to try to get the speed limit from 30 to 20 in back streets, subdivisions, and what happened, unfortunately, was Florida Drive got the attention, got the study. You had the facts right in front of you that showed 30 miles an hour in a non-sidewalk street is dangerous. We've had council members praise and applaud the value of a sidewalk, how critical it is. We go so far as every new subdivision that is built here for the exciting people moving here have a sidewalk. Yet twice a day, my wife and I walk our dogs dawn and dusk, because the rest of the day's a little hot to be out there, with people driving 30, 40 miles an hour on a road that has no sidewalk. I thought for sure you would realize the simple math of going $1 million to lower the speed or $80 million to put a sidewalk throughout Palm Coast. Well, guess what? Eventually, like we saw in Orlando, a young person's going to get hit by a speeding car, and the record's going to show that the opportunity was presented for you gentlemen and ladies to take positive movements toward protecting our pedestrians. And I'll point this last obvious fact. Look at a school. Look at the amount of effort and signs and police protecting those students as they walk to school. Step back a half a mile and watch that young person walk to school in a non-sidewalk in the road to get there at a 30-mile-an-hour speed limit. Consider the obvious tonight. Don't let this pass before you guys all step away to realize you can save lives. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment. Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. Sue Rowe from Palm Coast, and thank you for listening, and agree with this gentleman that just spoke on public safety, but that includes, as he mentioned, his dogs walking in the roads, the city having kids walking in the roads on the way to school. I've seen it. It is dangerous. It is dangerous. I would love to see the speed limits lowered, but I'd also love to see the dogs that are sick at Flagler Humane Society, that they have adopted out because they don't have any protocol on checking things. They don't have any x-rays machines. They don't have anything to determine the health of these dogs. I know someone recently got a little dog it had kennel cough. Kennel cough is contagious to other animals in the area. We want public safety. That includes not only our children on the roads and our pets on the roads, but our pets in our homes. I recently also have a dog that has hookworm. Hookworm is contagious. Not everybody's polite enough to clean up after their pets, though I would love to see that. But we don't even have the staff at Flagler Humane Society that clean up after the pets, even though I post it. Bags all over the outside of the area, and they still don't pick up. But it is contagious. Those are health issues that these dogs are dealing with. They're not separated, they're not segregated, because the space isn't there. So please do consider another shelter in this county. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment. Yes, ma'am.
Candy Stevens, P-section. I wasn't going to talk again, but I heard them bringing up public safety. And my neighbors messaged me and asked me to bring this to the front. We've been talking about it. I've been talking to Teresa about this issue on my street. This is really directed to the heads of the departments in the back, probably the building department. But I know we can't stop development here, okay? But when I'm sitting outside and I'm counting 5 dump trucks every 5 minutes going down my street, so I'm counting all day long dump trucks before I had to go to work, and I'm thinking there was between 60 and 80 dump trucks before I left at 1 o'clock. So not only is it disruptive to my happiness and my peace, because my house shakes constantly all day, it's bothering my neighbors as well. So I wish, since we're gonna just develop the hell out of Palm Coast and put a house on every square piece of grass we got, I wish that you guys would look at it this way. Where they're coming from on Royal Palms and Old Kings, they're coming down Royal Palms and turning straight on Point Pleasant. They're going down Point Pleasant. They're not deviating. It's the same route all day long. Point Pleasant to Ponce de Leon, where they took all the trees out from the middle of the P section and now they're building all those homes. So I realize it's the shortest distance for them to go from there to there, but to not disrupt one whole street, can they not deviate their route? Can we not have them go, there's 3 routes in. Why are they only using one? The dump trucks are gonna come anyway, I realize that. But my neighbors and I would like to know why they are not made to use all 3 routes. So you're not having all the dump trucks just coming down one end of Point Pleasant. If you come and look at the street, because my neighbors walk their dogs, we don't have sidewalks either, and you have dump trucks going by at 20 to 30 miles an hour with kids standing at the bus stop on my way here. They were outside and the dump trucks were coming. So we have dump trucks coming, we have kids outside, we have elderly people, we have dogs loose, you name it, we got it. I just would like to know how you guys would like to sit in your house. And I could be in the very back part of my house with the TV on, and I can still feel it and I can still hear it. So I would like to know how you would like that done to you for 2 and 3 weeks at a time, where we're going on 4 weeks now, and they're still coming this morning. So is there a way to have the building department be more considerate of how they're coming in to dump the dirt? Or do we just have to deal with that? That's all I want to know. Because I know we can't stop development. We talked about that yesterday. But can they be more considerate of those of us that are already here? That's all we're asking. Then people probably wouldn't complain as much.
Thank you for your comment.
You're welcome.
Yes, sir.
Good morning. Gary Kunis, C-section. I'm going to change this a little bit. Shall Article 6 of the chapter amended removing the provision 3E related to the physical contracting authority and limit the city's ability to enter in a public-private partnership have the ability to address growth by having future residents contribute to infrastructure costs, respond to emergency, use available financial instruments, including but not limited to bonds? Now let's take that apart. Sounds nice on there, make people vote for it. But no, you don't want it. What that does is changes the limits on what the city can borrow to 17 million to whatever they want, which will put the costs on the taxpayers, the kids beyond, and so forth. And what's behind it is a $90 million stadium construction. Being that the forethought is never done, it could go over 100 million, which leaves it to the taxpayers. The interest, the bond design, the commissions to the brokers, the interest to the bondholders, the taxpayers' expense, initial costs, crafting of the bonds, lawyers, accountants, credit agencies, ratings like Moody, SP, Finch, the cost of marketing, support staff, management, advertising, who are the potential buyers, potential revenue, the insurance, the liability, at the taxpayer's expense. There's no forethought here. It's like the circus at the community center for the franchise fee, to try to ram through 0.25% and say it was for roads. Where is the tax money from the gasoline sales go, which are for the roads? Waste Pro's contract had no extra costs in it, but you failed to tell us on the FCC contract that there's a cost of living adjustment, which means it's going to go up every year. That was never disclosed. It was hidden from us. This is a wrong thing to do. The way these things are worded, like the last questions, a no really meant a yes. And some of you voted yes, it really meant no. These things should be written in a proper thing so people understand them and what they're getting involved in and where the money's coming from. And there's no forethought here of where that money's coming from. And when I was in, as still are, a COP, changing the speed limits is not going to slow the people down. It's not going to stop them at the stop streets. They're going to go through them. They're going to turn right on stop streets without stopping. They're going to go through the traffic lights. Signs are not going to slow them down. I've seen it personally. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment. Are there any other members of the public that would like to address me at this time? Seeing no one come forward, I'll close public comment. City Council, you have an opportunity to comment if you would like.
I just heard what Mr. Kunis said, and I have to tell you, I agree 100%. This bond issue that we're placing on the ballot, this language needs to be clearly rewritten. It is intentionally misleading. It is deceptive. There is no transparency. What these bonds are, folks, is you are looking at giving the city council, the approval of pretty much an unlimited amount of money, where we right now are 36 months to have to pay it back at a $15 million cap. We are looking at just increasing that through the roof. And I got to tell you, I have a problem with this, because you would be mortgaging your children and your grandchildren's future by approving these bonds. And the way this is written, there is nothing that tells you what this is. It's nothing that says we're removing a $15 million cap and the 36-month payback and setting a much higher amount. And I'm very, very disturbed about this, because all of us on council, all of us were invited to a meeting with Rayonier, and we all know what this is about. It's about a $90 million stadium they want to build from your pocketbook. And I'm sorry, I think this language needs to be rewritten. I had a conversation with our attorney, and I asked that you rewrite the language. I hope you have something more transparent so people know what they're voting on. Okay. Do you? Mr. Duffy?
Well, these are comments, so let's...
This is now a question to our attorney. Do you have more concise, more language that explains to people, if they're going to vote on this, what they're actually voting on?
Let me just help you.
I'm talking to our attorney, Mr. Mayor. I'm asked him a question. Do you have...
Yeah, but you're out of order.
I'm not out of order.
Well, you're going to be out of order
No, I'm not
now.
out of order. And Mr. Mayor, I'm sorry, I'm not out of order. I've asked a question.
Well,
not
hold on.
interrupt me, Alvin.
Excuse me.
Do you have...
Listen, I'm going to... If
you know what these are going to be called by the end of the day? Alphen bonds.
That's fine.
If we don't have this conversation.
Mr.
But do
Vice
not
Mayor,
interrupt.
Vice Mayor,
Listen
are you
to me,
referring...
Mayor. No, you listen. All of us have a voice, and you do not get to shut us down. I asked our attorney
Not shutting
a
you
question.
down. I'm just trying to understand your question.
But you don't need to understand it. He needs to
No,
understand
I need
it.
to understand it, because I am the presiding officer of this meeting. Now, let me ask you a
Not
question.
get to shut me down.
Are you... I'm not shutting you
I'm
down.
asking a question of our attorney. I'd like an answer.
I'm going to ask you the question.
This is why you didn't elect this guy, huh, folks?
Did you...
I mean, seriously.
You voted in favor of this
And
just
I'm now
2 meetings
changing
ago.
it, but I want
That's what
to
I'm
know
trying
if
to
we have
clarify.
new language.
That's what I'm trying to clarify. You're going back on the vote that you made.
Yes,
2
I
weeks ago.
am.
Okay.
I
So
am.
now I'll allow the
Clarify.
question to the attorney.
I've asked him.
Counsel, do you have a question? An answer for the question.
Yes, Mr. Danko, so the language has not been changed based on what council asked us to draft previously by the vote. So I have not had any new direction from this council to change anything.
So
from
what
that.
you're proposing is basically dishonest, misleading, deceptive. It doesn't tell the voters one single thing what you would be voting on. And if you read the language, Mr. Duffy, to the audience here, please.
Hold on.
You know what? Now, I've asked Mr. Duffy to read the language to the voters.
Well, Mr.
And then I
Kunis-
want you guys to tell me if you understand a word this guy is saying.
Mr. Kunis just read the language, actually,
Right, and
to the
now I'm
voters.
asking our attorney, so it's official, and it's on the record.
And this is the language that you voted, you approved 2 meetings ago.
And I'm going to rescind that vote, however we
Well,
proceed.
okay,
But I'd like the public to hear this language, because
We're
we did
commenting on
not
public
know.
comment, yeah.
I did not know, when we voted on this language, I did not know what this was specifically for. It's for a $90 million stadium in the westward expansion.
Why did
It's
you
for a
vote for it?
company that makes billions of dollars.
Okay, why did you vote for it if you didn't know what you
Because I
voted for?
did not know
Okay.
where this was going. I did not know what this was for, and I now know the truth
Okay.
after that presentation, and I can't live with that.
Are you finished with your comment?
No, I'm waiting for our attorney to
I
read
don't
that
think,
language.
I don't think the attorney has, do you have an answer? I think you've answered.
I'm asking him to read the
Question's
language.
been asked and answered. Do you have additional answer?
I don't have any additional
Okay.
I'm asking you to read the language of what we approved.
Go ahead.
You afraid of it?
Stop.
No, I'm not going to stop.
If council give me a second, I can bring it up on my computer. I'm happy to
Thank
read
you.
it.
And you folks tell me if you understand what you're being asked to vote on.
I have it. Do you want me to read it? I have it up.
Go ahead.
Shall Article 6 of the Charter be amended by removing Provision 3E related to fiscal contracting authority that limit the city's ability, without voter approval, from entering into contracts and incurring debt with repayment terms greater than 36 months and amounts greater than, I'm sorry, this That's not the right language. I apologize. It says, shall Article 6 of the Charter be amended by removing provision 3E related to fiscal contracting authority that limit the city's ability without to enter into public-private partnerships, have the ability to address growth by having future residents contribute to infrastructure costs, respond to emergencies, and use available financial instruments, including but not limited to bonds. That's the language that you voted on.
Do you folks understand what that means? Anyone? Raise your hand.
No, this is for you.
Raise your hand.
Stop.
You understand? No, I don't either.
Okay, are you finished with your, hold on.
I'm not finished.
All right, well,
because what it means by future generation is your children and your grandchildren will be paying for this.
Okay.
Okay, and right now, we're not limited on any of those things in that language. It's all fluff. We can do bonds for infrastructure. We can do bonds for anything we want that's in that language. We're not limited. We're limited by the cap of the amount and how it gets paid back. So all you've done is fill this with fluff. And now I find out what it's really for. It's for a stadium.
All right.
A stadium.
All right.
We're not, the Miami Dolphins moving to Palm Coast? I don't think so.
All right,
What are we going to do with the
I
stadium?
need you to finish your comment.
Well, my comment is very simple. This
Finish
is
it up.
wrong.
Okay.
I want to
Okay.
rescind my vote. I
All
want
right.
this council to reconsider
Okay.
this, rewriting the language, which needs to be written before September 5th, or it's on the ballot with the gobbledygook you all just heard. So we either need to be honest and transparent and not deceptive, or we need to remove
All right.
this from the ballot. Now, if the
You've
rest
made your
of you want to
comment.
be deceptive, I can't
You've
help
made
it,
your comment. Okay, thank you.
because it is deception.
You've made your comment. City Councilwoman Pontieri. Comment. Do you have a comment?
I'm going to address that at the end. I want to address more public comment before we get to that. First of all, with regards to the folks that came out about the Flagler Humane Society, Ms. Thompson and Mr. Hunter, I have received emails about the animal cruelty case that was brought up, and I did research into it. And if you'll just give me one moment, I will pull up information for you. And I want to make this public because I think that if you want action to be taken, it might take some public pressure. So if you wish to have the prosecutors move forward on this, I think that that's a good idea. But I think it's going to take a little bit more work to get that done. Give me 1 second. I apologize. I'm looking.
Do you want to mention the upcoming meeting?
Yes, while I'm looking for this.
City manager can do that for you.
Yeah, we do have a meeting, a joint city-county meeting of city manager can talk about that because this subject
Public
is on
meeting.
it.
It'll
It's a
be public.
meeting, yeah.
Yes, thank you, Mayor and Councilwoman Pontieri. There is per City Council's direction at their last business meeting, they requested a joint City of Palm Coast and Flagler County Commission meeting that's scheduled for tomorrow evening at 5 p.m. at the Government Services Building. We'll cover 3 topics. That was the request. We will cover the Humane Society. We will cover some congestion and traffic concerns on State Road 100, and we'll cover using sheriff impact fees and services from the sheriff. So those 3 items are on the agenda for tomorrow evening.
Yeah, so I would definitely come out, bring your ideas that you have regarding the Humane Society, possible solutions, things of that nature, because my hope is that the city and the county can work together to come up with a resolution. So please come out to that. Specifically, the information I was given is that the Flagler County Sheriff's Office has completed its investigation that was specifically brought up to me via email about animal cruelty. Charges are pending a review from the state attorney's office. If you want to inquire as to the case number, it is 2024-0005055. I'll email you, Mr. Hunter, that case number. And Ms. Thompson, if you want to email me, you're welcome to, and I'll send it to you as well. So if you want to inquire, that's what you would inquire about. With regards to the speed limit, it was going to cost us $1.5 million to lower the speed limit citywide. It is something that we looked into. It's something that we wanted to do as council, but unfortunately, we have limited funds as to what we can do. It doesn't mean we absolutely won't do it in the future. It's just not something that we can afford in our budget this year. We are taking other steps to calm traffic throughout the city, so definitely keep an eye out for those steps. With regards to the dump truck, city manager, can you comment on that? Because we spoke about that, and I believe that steps are being taken to force use of alternative routes. So Point Pleasant, well, I'm bringing it up in the sunshine so that hopefully something else can be done.
Yes, Councilwoman Pontieri, that's also a matter on your agenda today, the approving the final plat of Ponce Preserve. So Mr. Leap will be here to answer any questions, but we did reach out and speak to the contractor about minimizing that disruption.
Thank you. Okay, now, this charter amendment. I specifically remember you and I sat here, Vice Mayor, and we together worked on the language of the proposed amendment to make it more transparent. You and I crafted this language from what was previously proposed in order to add the verbiage for bonds. You recall that, I'm sure.
I do recall
Okay, so we specifically proposed changes to make this charter amendment more transparent, and then we all, as a council, voted on it. Now, if your position is that you think that the alternative motive to this charter amendment is so that a, quote, stadium can be built out in the western expansion, I can tell you from my perspective, that is not why this is being done. Now, does it allow us to enter into private-public partnerships?
But so does the amendment, the way, so does the charter, the way it stands.
I did not interrupt you.
Let the councilwoman finish, please.
Go ahead.
Allows us to enter into public-private partnerships. It also allows us to enter into certain leases via public-private partnerships that we could not previously enter into, specifically that were over 36 months long. Now, with regards to, so can that be used for a potential sports complex that we have done a lot of research on and looked at and seen that it will bring hundreds of millions of sports tourism dollars into our community? Yes, we have done research on that. Matter of fact, Public Records shows a sports tourism report that shows both passive and active dollars that can bring into our community. I am a very big proponent of that opportunity because I, from the moment I took this seat, have been pushing for commercial development and economic development. Now, it is a concern for me that you are throwing up a red flag about a sports complex when you have approved every single residential zoning variance that has come before this board and increased dwelling units. This is an opportunity to invest in commercial in our community that will bring dollars back into the community, first of all. Secondly, shake your head all you want, that's the truth.
It's not. Right. It's
If
It's not.
we go out to borrow monies, we have to prove that we can pay it back, just like any other loan that we enter into.
Yeah.
Just like any other loan. So we have to prove a credit rating. We have to prove that we have the ability, whether that's through monies that are coming into the community, through sports tourism, or whatever else it may be, taxes, specifically bed taxes, all of these things that this can be a catalyst for. We can't borrow unless we can prove that. So it's not a blank check that we can just write. It's not. You are acting ignorant right now.
I'm sorry?
You are
Excuse
acting
me?
ignorant right
You'll
now.
have your
Excuse
chance.
me?
You'll have your
You're going to
chance.
insult
All right,
me? I
listen.
haven't insulted you.
Vice
Yes,
Mayor.
you did.
Both of you. I'm
I
gonna,
haven't.
hold on,
You don't
hold
call
on.
me ignorant.
I am going to stop this meeting,
Well,
which is my prerogative. If
stop
you're not
it.
gonna stop this,
You can stop it.
I
but
will.
For her to
I
sit
will.
there and
So
insult
mark
me
my
like
words.
that.
I will absolutely stop this
Well, then-
meeting if y'all can't talk.
Well, then,
with some decorum.
I did not insult her.
Yes, you did.
All right,
No, I
stop.
didn't. I didn't call you
All
a
right,
name.
She's speaking. Close your
No,
mouth.
no. She insults me again, I'm not going to stop.
Fine. You know what? But by saying that we all agreed on something because we want to take out money against the children of this community's future.
That's what we're doing.
No, it's not. That is an incorrect statement.
That
is an incorrect statement.
You attended a meeting at Michael Chimento's office with Ryan here.
let's-
Yes, every
let's
council
move-
member
let's
did.
move this forward.
I was informed at
Hold
that
on.
meeting.
Vice
I was
Mayor,
informed
no.
at that meeting.
Vice Mayor, you
that
don't
if
have the
this
floor.
bond-
Vice Mayor, I'm going to stop the damn meeting in a second. Let the councilwoman finish your comments, then you'll have your turn. Okay? Not both at the same time. Councilwoman Pontieri, please complete your comments.
I will directly answer your question. I cannot speak for anybody else, but with regards to what the plans are for the westward expansion that are not set in stone, by the way, Yes, I think we all have had those meetings, but to say that this is specifically this allows us to do that, you are correct, but that is not why it's being done. So to convey that to the community, you are misrepresenting what this is doing, and it's dangerous, Councilman. It's dangerous what you're doing. And yes, it is, because you're misrepresenting something that is simply not true. We have to apply as any other borrower for credit would have to apply.
Okay,
We are not
okay.
immune from that.
You got the point.
Let me answer
You got the point.
I will apologize for calling you
Thank you.
ignorant. I will say the statements that are being made are an ignorant.
They're my
ignorant
opinion,
statement.
they're
Okay,
not
hold on,
yours.
wait. Councilman Clufus.
Period. Hold on, you said I could
No,
respond,
you've already-
and I'm
hold
going
on.
to respond.
Hey, wait, you've had your
you
turn.
said
It's
I
Councilman
could-
Clufus
you
next.
just said
I
could
will get to you
respond.
when I'm ready.
Really?
Yes,
Yeah,
ready.
well, you know what?
Or, you know where the door is.
Oh,
You know where
what?
the door is.
You know where the
Help
door
yourself
is.
to it. No,
I
I'm
think
the officer
public
of the
has
meeting.
shown him the door. I don't know
Councilman
about you folks.
Clufus, do you have
Seriously.
comments? We're on public comment. Do you have any comments regarding today's public comment?
I don't think changing the speed limit signs is going to slow anybody down, Mr. Kunez, you know? I got to tell you, I don't think that changing the speed limit signs will slow anybody down. Besides that, nope, I think that covered all of it. Very good.
Fine, Mike.
All right, Vice Mayor, I will come back to you. I don't want hold on, just a minute. I don't want anyone to interrupt the Vice Mayor. He has an opinion. Let him go for it, and then after that, we'll conclude
were all
this
invited
section of
to
the
a
agenda.
meeting.
Go ahead.
And I was told at that meeting, and I assume you were told the same thing I was, that if we didn't approve these bonds, the company building the stadium would exit and leave the westward expansion. That's what I was told, and that's now what's changed my mind.
Okay,
I
good.
don't like something like that hanging over us, that if we don't approve $90 million to build that stadium, they're going to lose that company, and it's all going to fall apart. $90 million of your money.
Okay.
And that's what concerns me. So yes, I am changing my opinion
Okay.
on this with new information. And I urge this
That's
council.
your comment. Okay.
I urge this council to rewrite this language in such a way that it tells you, honestly, what they are doing. And they are basically removing a $15 million cap on bonds and a 36-month payback on bonds and replacing it with an unlimited, unspecified, undefined amount.
You've made your comment repeatedly.
You said I could
You've made
speak
it repeatedly.
uninterrupted, so I am going to
Yeah, but
speak
no.
uninterrupted.
3 times is enough.
No.
So finish up.
See, he's afraid. That's
Finish
the
up.
truth, folks. He's
Finish
afraid.
up. Finish up your comment.
He's afraid.
Vice Mayor, are you finished?
And I'm sorry, I'm not going to be on board
Okay.
with this at all.
All right,
You
we
folks
understand.
need to
Got
know
it.
about it.
Councilwoman Pontieri.
Deceptive and disingenuine, and it's disgusting, folks. And
Vice
in
Mayor,
case-
repeating yourself,
In case nobody up here
repeating
gets
yourself
it,
doesn't help.
In case
Doesn't help
nobody
the
up here
comment.
gets it,
Okay.
you voted us all out. And this is one of the reasons why.
Okay.
And so I want you to know I hear your voice. I hear what you're saying. So I am now speaking out against this. And I'm going to fight like hell to make sure if this gets on the ballot with this fraudulent language, I'm going to be out there fighting like hell to defeat
Vice
this.
Mayor, you made your comment.
Thank
You made
you.
your point. We understand. Councilman Pontieri, last crack here.
Yeah, so I was not given that information that you say you were told about any company that would leave if.
I was.
Clearly, you just said that, but I'm
Okay,
I'm
make
I'm
your
letting the
comment so we
public.
can move on.
I'm letting the public know that I was not told that. I have no issue readdressing the amendment language. What I have an issue with is not doing due diligence and research prior to a very important vote, which I think is kind of rampant by some on this board. So the research should have been done before the vote, not afterwards, for whatever reason.
Yeah.
But I will say, I have been sent proposed language. I'm happy to share it with my colleagues. And it does mention the $15,000. It does mention the 15 million, I'm sorry, you're right. $15 million, it does mention the 36 months. I don't know, I do know from a charter standpoint, I believe, our policies and procedures, council, if you could, how are we able to rescind the previous vote and reevaluate, or has that time passed?
Theoretically, that time has not passed. However, if you would amend this charter language, it would have to go back for 2 read-throughs again, and it would not make the ballot.
And this is not even on today's agenda.
I know, but it is now. And I'm fine
No,
with...
it's not on today's agenda.
I'm fine with removing this vote.
Okay.
And letting
You've
the
made your
next
point.
council deal with this.
You've made your
This
point.
is too important to just shove this on a ballot with this clearly misleading language. So if we cannot amend it, and that's based on what I've learned too, by the way, which you now have learned, which should concern us all. And I think that if we can't rewrite this language today, and I don't see why we can't rewrite this language today, why we can't amend it. I have language I would like to replace this with, and I don't see what prevents us from amending this, because I know you want to get it on a ballot, but if it's impossible to amend, then I think we need to remove it from the ballot.
I have a question and possible solution before I get cut off again. If we were to rescind and talk about language of this amendment, and maybe it's put off until the end of the meeting so that we can get to the business that is on the agenda, but then we were to set a special business meeting on September 3rd after the workshop, could we theoretically have those two reads and approvals for it to make the ballot?
I don't know, I can't remember the top of my head when it's due for a ballot. Maybe the city manager might be able to remember, but I don't know, I don't think it's going to work in that time frame.
So originally, the supervisor of election had shared with us August 5th. That's why it was heard back in July. But I'm not sure now with the discussion of the Council 4 seat, if that's changed or if that's set in stone. I do know that whenever we do an ordinance read, we do have to advertise that ordinance read. So if you were going to change any type of language, it would need to be advertised for a certain amount of time.
So we couldn't do that today then?
Then let's remove it from the ballot and let the
Vice
next
Mayor, you wanna
council
make a motion?
deal with it. I'm making a motion, we remove this from the ballot.
Okay.
And let the next council
Is that
deal
your
with
motion?
it. If we can't, for some
Is
reason...
that your motion?
If we can't rewrite this, and I still don't see
No,
why
no,
we can't, because if we can put a candidate on the ballot by September 5th, we could put rewritten language on
Are
it.
you making a motion?
I'm just asking, are you sure about this, and is this just your opinion?
Well, hold on, because city
I want to make
manager-
sure that
Wait,
we're on
asking
solid
counsel,
ground.
asking counsel, just a second.
I want to make sure we're on solid ground, that it's not just a legal
Are you going to
opinion.
listen to the answer? Come on.
So it's, my analysis is based on that we need to have two read-throughs. So based on prior discussions that staff has had with the supervisor election, that the date has passed to amend it. So,
But yet, I'm confused because the date is not passed for us to put a candidate on the ballot.
You don't need
What's the difference?
two reads?
I
don't
don't
know.
have that answer for you.
So I suggest then that we rewrite this language and submit it to the supervisor of election and see
So
what
are you
happens.
making a motion?
Hold on, because the city manager just told us that we have to notice an ordinance read, and we
Right.
have not done that.
Right.
So are we out of compliance by failing to notice? If we amend now, that would be amending the ordinance. So are we failing the notice requirements by taking that step?
Excuse me, that's what I'm talking about when we have the two read-throughs. The two read-throughs gives a notice of that going through the process. So we have to give those notice to the public.
So when
are
we
we out of
rewrote it-
Are we out of compliance if we kind of sua sponte on our own right now, amend the language? Are we out of compliance with the notice requirements?
Sorry, can you reword your question one more time?
Or are we out of compliance with the notice requirements for ordinances if we do this today because we did not notice it as an ordinance read? Are we out of compliance with the notice requirements if we amend the ordinance today?
Yes, that would be my recommendation.
So I have a question then. When we rewrote this the first time, remember, did we have to give another 2-week notice?
It was on the agenda that day, though.
It was on the agenda, but then we rewrote it and came back again.
Yes.
And approved it.
Every time we did a rewrite, we had to give a 2-week notice?
Yeah, because then we gave because it was on the agenda, and then you guys approved it.
Right.
Right.
So if I'm remembering how we did this, we made the amendments, all right, then it was put out for a notice, came back to you guys. I don't remember if we made any more amendments after that. Then it was put out for notice, and then you guys voted on it.
Okay, well then I guess my motion...
So you're in the middle of a motion, so let's get that done.
Motion
What's your
is
motion?
to remove
Okay.
this from the ballot.
Okay.
And let the next council deal with it.
That's the motion. So there is a motion. Is there a second?
Well,
No second, the motion
shame
fails. So now
on
move on.
you all for deceiving the public.
All right. We move
Shame
on
on
to
you,
our
Mayor Alfin.
Vice Mayor.
Shame on
Are
you.
you going to disrupt the meeting? Because I will stop the meeting, give you time, or ask you to leave, either way.
Shame on you.
Okay. We now move on to the presentation for the final proposed budget for all appropriated funds. So,
Doesn't count.
ma'am, you're a member of the public, no?
I am the public, I'm sorry. That's the problem. That's what it is.
You're not part of the voting process on city council.
We the people. We the people.
Read the charter.
It doesn't matter. You're acting like we're not even here. I support it.
Ladies, when you're ready.
You guys are voting on something that you...
Ma'am, I'm going to ask you to leave the meeting in a minute if you can't follow the agenda.
You're rude. Let them speak.
Ladies, please proceed.
So good morning, Mayor, City Council, Helena Alves, Financial Services Director. I have with me Gwen Ragsdale, the Budget and Procurement Manager, and also Raylene Bauman, our Budget Coordinator. And we are here today to present to you the final proposed budget for fiscal year 2025. Quick look at the timeline. We're going to be talking about the general fund, proprietary funds, capital funds, and our special revenue funds, as well as TRIM. As you can see from our timeline, we started the budget process in February with your annual strategic action plan meetings. Departments presented their showcases, and finance presented year-to-date budget results, fund accounting, and revenue restrictions, as well as property tax overview and TRIM. Numerous budget presentations and workshops have been held since April in preparation for your first public hearing, which will be here at City Hall on September 5th at 5:15 p.m. City Council will be approving the fiscal year 2024 revised budget, as well as the tentative millage and fiscal year 25 budget. Your final budget hearing is scheduled for September 18th at 5:15, also here at City Hall. So we will get started with the general fund revenues and expenditures. This is an overview of positions budgeted for the general fund. There is a total increase of 1 full-time position. In the following slides, we will outline the positions requested in the proposed budgets. So this is a big picture look at the general fund revenues. The overall change, $5.5 million, or a 9.9% increase. Ad valorem is the largest revenue source for the general fund. The city's assessed value has increased by 13.66%, with approximately 7% attributable to new construction. Assuming a millage rate of 4.2154, we would generate $40.3 million in ad valorem revenues, of which $39.8 million would be to support the general fund. The amount attributable to new construction is approximately $2.5 million, leaving a balance of $1.9 to existing taxable properties. We have received the state estimates and updated calculations. Total projected revenues from the state are $8.6 million. We do not have any other significant changes from your July presentations. As you'll notice, an increase in the appropriated fund balance for fiscal year 2024 from the original budget. That is $2.5 million for Fire Station 22 project. Your fiscal year 2025 appropriated fund balance of $1 million is to fund the annual contingency to handle fluctuations in revenue and expenditures, the property tax value adjustment contingency, as well as $175,000 carryover from fiscal year 2024 for the comp plan and the land development code revision, as well as $160,000 for economic development. There's also one-time equipment for fiscal year 25 for the fire department of $63,000 and for golf of $34,000. Do we have any questions on revenues before we move forward to expenditures?
Questions, city council members? No, please proceed.
Thank you. So this is a big picture summary of the general fund expenditures. We will discuss them in detail in the following slides. As shown, the proposed general fund budget for fiscal year 2025 is $61.4 million, an increase of $5.5 million from fiscal year 2024, or 9.9%. For our general fund budgets, we implemented the measures outlined by City Council at the July 16th and August 13th presentations. I will turn it over to Raylene to present individual general fund departments. She will focus on the main items that contributed to the budget changes. Across the board, we have regular increases to salaries, health insurance, as well as regular operational items. Thank you.
The financial services budget is increasing due to regular personnel increases and salary and benefits. The operating expenditures include additional funds for the external audit, as the current contract is set to expire after the fiscal year 2024 audit is completed. Oh, I'm sorry, am I the one slide?
Yes, you jump.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Page 4.
Sorry about that.
Let's start over, that's fine.
We will begin by reviewing the administrative services budgets. The budget for City Council includes an increase in travel as well as the executive search firm for the city manager position. The city manager and city clerk's increase includes funding for the Frozen City Administrative Coordinator position, as well as the funding for the projected new city manager. The city attorney's budget has decreased accordingly after implementing the contract with the current legal firm. The communications and marketing budget increase includes funding in the communications specialist position that was frozen in fiscal year 2024. The position will focus on the council priority of optimizing citizen information and engagement with government, as well as other routine duties in the department. The human resources budget increase includes funding the frozen position for the city safety specialist, who will focus on mitigating workers' comp claims and related safety concerns within the city. This budget also includes an increase in tuition reimbursement, reflecting the ongoing commitment to support our employees' professional and personal development. The city's financial services budget is increasing due to regular personnel increases in salary and benefits. The operating expenditures include additional funds for the external audit, as the current contract is set to expire after the fiscal year 2024 audit is completed, and we expect an increase in fees. The construction management engineering budget is a division of the stormwater department that involves the transportation and the parks facilities group. The proposed budget decrease reflects the completion of the council priority for the residential speed safety study. The planning division budget is increasing due to the regular personnel increases in salary and benefits. A planning manager position was requested but not funded. The planning manager would help to manage projects and performance metrics while also managing the land development code updates following the completion of the comprehensive plan. The code division budget remains relatively flat, with a reduction to personnel services relating to long-term employees retiring and being replaced. An additional code officer position is currently funded per council's direction. The position was originally listed as unfunded for fiscal year 2025. The business tax budget decrease is primarily related to the replacement of a long-term employee who retired. The economic development requested increase includes the following 3 items: the funding for the UCF Small Business Development Center at $68,000, the $161,000 for SAP Objective 8 to enhance economic development efforts and attract major employers, and a full year of funding for the Economic Development Coordinator position, which was only partially funded in fiscal year 2024. The sheriff presented his budget request to council at the June 18th meeting. This request for an increase included a cost of living adjustment, an increase in health insurance premiums, 9 additional new deputies, and the contractual increase including retirement contributions. Per council's direction, the sheriff budget has been decreased by $87,000 for revenue generated by impact fees. The fire department's proposed budget increase reflects the needs associated in the expansion in the southern response area. The increase in personnel reflects 3 positions budgeted for 6 months in the current year, EMTs being promoted to paramedics, and annual salary increases. The operational increases are attributed to additional training needs. The streets maintenance budget request increase is primarily driven by funding 2 previously frozen positions for grounds maintenance workers, adding an additional equipment operator as per council direction, and accounting for the rise in costs for landscape maintenance, chemicals, and pesticides. For Parks and Recreation, the overall increase can be linked to a combination of utilities and programs, as well as the grants and historical society lines due to the growth of arts in the community. Per council's direction at the August 13th presentation about Parks and Recreation, we have increased the Arts Council grants in this budget to the $100,000 requested. The Aquatic Center budget is remaining relatively flat. The Southern Recreation Center proposed increase includes extended operational hours on weekends, as well as an additional USTA Futures Tournament. The Palm Harbor Golf Club's budget decrease was accomplished by reducing seasonal staff hours and operating expenditures. Per council's direction from the July 16th presentation, the debris blower has been added back to the equipment request. The Parks Maintenance Division increase is due to increased operational needs of the splash pad, new additions to Waterfront Park, Lehigh Trailhead, and the Southern Recreation Center. For position increases, the field maintenance supervisor was transferred from Parks and Recreation to Parks Maintenance, and 3 positions additions were recommended during the Parks Master Plan review to meet the expectations of the maintenance analysis. We will now review the non-departmental budget. The increase in interfund transfers for fiscal year 2024 is due to the proposed transfer of fund balance in the amount of $3.5 million to the Fire Impact Fee Fund for fire station projects that are currently unfunded. For fiscal year 2025, we are proposing the contingency for revenue and expenditure fluctuations, as well as value adjustment board changes, as we have done in the past. As presented today, we have $250,000 available for council consideration to be discussed later in the presentation. Do you have any questions about the general fund?
Questions?
I don't have any questions. I just have a general comment because, as we look at what we're going to adopt as policy as far as millage rate, I think it's really important to point out that 38% of our general fund budget is public safety. It shows we're prioritizing that. Also important to point out is that 51% of the increase to our general fund budget is due to public safety. So when we look at what we are prioritizing as a community, I just think that's really important to point out.
Nope, nothing as of now.
Thank you for pointing out that a huge slice of the pie there, so it's clear. Good. Ladies, please continue.
So we will now turn the presentation over to Director Amanda Reese to present the water and wastewater budgets.
Thank you. Good morning, Mayor and Council. Morning. We are going to start with the review of the Water and Wastewater Fund position summary. You can see that we have an addition in utility finance, utility construction management engineering, and the water distribution team. And I believe I'm talking with the staff on the reduction of the water quality position. I believe it to be a typo, and it should be a reduction in water plant number 2. So it's not actually in the quality category.
I'm sorry,
Go
Ms.
ahead.
Reese, can you just repeat that, please, for clarification?
So the reduction in the water quality plant position, I'm having them review it, but as of currently right now, there's not a reduction in the water quality staff. We believed it was a typo, and it's really a reduction in water treatment plant number 2.
Okay, so we're not reducing staff in the water quality department?
No.
Perfect, thank you.
Yes. The next slide is the operating fund summary. You'll see here that we are over a $60 million yearly operation. Our charges for services or revenues are running roughly $7.1 million beyond the adopted FY24 value. You are starting to see the revenues from adding new customers to the system. The total expenditures have increased approximately 10 million since last year, and the detail of those expenditures will be covered in the upcoming slides. We're moving on to wastewater pumping. Wastewater pumping, the majority of the percentage change and increase is related to the increase of parts and materials for the wastewater pumping division. The major driver of this is the maintenance of our aging infrastructure. You also have the operating expenditures here of 292, which make up the majority of that is internal allocations related to fleet replacement for that division. Moving on to wastewater collections, FY 2025 wastewater collections will be adding one additional staff member to focus on after-hour emergencies and service calls. And the big ticket item in operating expenditures is the replacement of the CCTV equipment. So the employee here came from what we just discussed in the beginning, the water treatment plant number 2. That one was reclassed to wastewater pumping, and I believe I sent the backup of that position and why that was moved from the increase of calls.
So this wasn't an added position, it was a transferred position?
Correct, it was a reclass, it's not an add.
Got it.
Moving on to wastewater treatment plant number 1, the bulk of the budget increases for wastewater treatment plant number 1 are in contractual services and chemicals. The existing sludge hauling increased almost 100% over last year's contractual agreement. Wastewater treatment plant 1 is near capacity, and with increased flows come increased operating costs for chemicals, electricity, and hauling. And the percentage change overall is 26.6% here at wastewater treatment plant number 1. Moving on to wastewater treatment plant number 2. As in the case with wastewater treatment plant number 1, the bulk of the increase in the 2025 budget is in contractual services, chemicals, and electricity. While wastewater treatment plant number 1 is facing capacity issues, wastewater treatment plant 2 is in the expansion phase that will double the capacity by late 2024, early 2025. While this expansion is needed for current and future growth, staff is also looking to divert flow from wastewater treatment plant number 1 to give some relief and free up capacity at wastewater treatment plant number 1 to serve future residential and commercial growth. Adding new capacity and new process equipment will increase operating costs in chemicals and power, and all of these items make up the 34.2% increase. Water treatment plant number 1. Operating expenditures were increased based on historical averages for chemicals, maintenance, and repair. And personnel changes are attributed to the retirement of Class A licensed operator 3. This position has been filled with a trainee in this budget and is shown as a reduction in personnel services. Water treatment plant number 2. You will see a 10% change overall at water treatment plant number 2. The operating expenditures increase is related to capabilities of this plant to treat the largest volume of water of all 3 plants. The utility has hit record highs in water usage, and plant number 2's well field is the healthiest producer of the 3. Water treatment plant number 3. Plant 3 has an addition of a liquid oxygen technology to enhance treatment in the operating expenditures, along with the historical averages for increase in chemicals, maintenance, and repairs. And this makes up the 10.4 increase overall from last fiscal year. Water quality. You will see here, you see a reduction, and that is due to a retirement and benefits due to employee specifications that were not in not in the FY 25 budget. And overtime was reduced in this category by $5K for FY25. So that makes up the reduction in this department. Water distribution. The Water Distribution Division plays an essential role by providing support as we expand our system. The largest part of this increase is the $150,000 in capital outlay, which represents the additional meters and supplies that need to be purchased to meet increasing demand for connectivity. We have a request here for new personnel for FY25, which is 2 meter technicians at the fully burdened rate of $58,879 each. These staff members will focus on, they will aid in new installs, but also help to decrease the backlog of meter requirements that we have that need to be replaced. Any questions on that one?
Anyone?
Okay. Administration went up by 6.4%. There's also in operating expenditures, you'll see an increase, which is approximately $50,000 in operating expense to cover an update to the existing rate study. So that's the 6.4% change in administration. Customer service expenditures will see an overall 6.6% increase. The majority is attributed to an increase in salaries and benefits while adding $45,000 in the Amazon Connect enhancement, specifically tied to number 6 of the strategic action plan to consistently ensure an excellent customer service response. Utility finance. There is an overall change total of an approximately $160,000 in utility finance, which the largest portion of the change is a transfer of a position from utility administration. There will be a new accountant role in utility finance. This position will help the utility as they experience rapid growth. We combat growing pains and outline fiscal plans to achieve the best output with the resources we have. Construction management and engineering. There is a request here for fiscal year 2025 for a utility engineer. And the fully burdened cost of that is $114,675. Any questions on that one?
No questions going.
Okay. Moving on to non-departmental, the non-departmental change overall is 27.8%, and the largest part of that increase is an interfund transfer that are related to the transfer of fund balance over the 20% requirement to the utility capital projects funds for projects needs. This accounts for approximately $5.6 million. You will also see the pilot, the paid in lieu of taxes represented in the interfund transfers.
Just a question, it'll go back a few slides. The additional labor for the meter reading, is there a point in time, I don't need to see the slide, is there a point in time where we benefit from the our ability to read these kind of remotely or electronically? I'm not seeing where we get that benefit eventually.
Correct. So we do have an additional tower going up, and we're in, I think, the last stages of that. That will help, but also the retirements are, I think, at approximately, I think they're around 11,000 meters that need to be replaced.
Okay.
So that they're aging. So that's the reason and the need for the additional staff, because they'll be replaced with new equipment.
And a large number of those were obviously put in at about the same time originally. What's the life of that? Is that 20 years ago or 10 years ago?
I believe that the policy today is a 15-year. 15. And I think before it might have been 10, but somehow along the way it got
So
upped.
25 years ago, you had a big surge of installations, yeah.
Well, I mean, it's So the retirement program at one time was a 10-year replacement, and then it
Okay.
was moved to a 15-year replacement. So,
Okay.
so now that's the standard when they leave the field.
And the equipment is, obviously, if it was, when you change the retirement time by that much, from 10 to 15 years.
I think it was done for budgetary purposes, I'm
For
sure.
budgetary purposes, but the equipment has the capability of continuing to perform for that additional 5 years. It's a big increase.
It does. The standard, I believe, the market standard would be sometime after a 10-year, you're looking at a 1% that they would degrade in accuracy by about 1% per year.
Per year, okay, all right, thank you.
Thank you.
Just to help you out with those meters, we're talking about the years that they were installed in '04 and '05
Right.
and '06, whenever we had another big period of growth. So that's the reason why the 11,000 meters.
Understood. Councilwoman?
Yeah, I have another question, somewhat related to that, also related to revenues. So we did not get a lot of appropriations that we asked for to improve our water and wastewater situation. So obviously, we're going to have to reevaluate the utility rate study. It is what it is. My question is, I have two, with regards to revenues. Number one, are we recovering what we spend to install new meters? And two, the charges for services, not normal services. So your regular customer that pays on time, that, every month they pay their bill. I don't want to increase their charges. That's not what I'm talking about. But charges for other services, for instance, if we have to go out to reconnect somebody or anything like that, have we looked at those services lately? And I know there's a lot of them. You would know more than I, the specifics of them. But I don't recall those being evaluated as a part of the utility rate study. Are we missing out on monies? Do we need to reevaluate what that looks like so that we can perhaps avoid raising the rates on our customers?
I'm sorry, just give me an example so I understand the question.
When I remember during the utility rate study, we looked at impact fees, we looked at what kind of revenues would be brought in if we raised the normal service charges, right? But what I don't recall is if we looked at rates for some miscellaneous charges, and like I said, you would know specifically. I know one of them is like a reconnection fee. But charges of that nature to see if we are covering the cost of those things.
So a reconnection fee meaning?
To turn on your water, turn off the water, if there was ever a late payment or something like that, or,
Oh, okay, for non-continuing service.
Right.
All right,
Yeah.
got it, okay.
So my question is, did we evaluate that? If we didn't, should we? Based on what, because you've come in here kind of with a fresh set of eyes. So based on what you have seen, is that something that we should look at in order to maybe, perhaps, hopefully, avoid raising the rates on our customers, on our residents?
So yes, there are quite a few, abundance of fees that they were presented, I think, in the utility rate study just as a name, meaning they weren't represented by some numbers. They were given a calculation sheet to update them because, of course, inflation is real and present, and those fees, some of those fees, to my knowledge, haven't been changed in 10 to 20 years. And so, yes, we have been evaluating them, and I should have them ready to go just as soon as you need them.
So I understand that the utility rate study might be coming back before us. I don't know when, but it's my understanding that because we did not get appropriations, we are going to have to reevaluate this. I would ask that a very strong analysis be done of those, what they should be raised to, and how that can save our residents money in possible other increase areas. Because if we can avoid raising the regular service charge on our customers that are good paying customers, I want to do that. So if we can make sure that's in the analysis, I'd appreciate it.
Sure.
Thank you.
So just for clarification, Mayor and City Council, we are working on that gap analysis. When you took action on raising the CIAC fees, you gave us a little bit more homework to do on the utility rate. So that gap analysis should be to you soon. But before it comes to you, we will have to notice to the residents that rates any fees, including these utility service fees, those on-offs, would be coming to city council for approval. So we'll identify that and give you at least a notice, but we are planning on that because that was our homework that you gave us whenever you approved the CIAC fees, to come back with that additional analysis.
I want to be very clear, because I didn't know what a CAIC fees.
Yeah.
They're impact fees that we raised.
Correct,
Yes.
correct.
That was all I had. Sorry.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, who's up next?
Thank you, Amanda. Deputy Director Lynn Stevens will present the Stormwater Management Fund budgets.
Good morning.
Morning.
So Lynn Stevens, Deputy Director of Stormwater and Engineering. So I'm here to present to you the stormwater portion of our budget. So as you can see on this slide, this just gives you the fact that we are asking for 10 new positions in this budget. These positions were identified as part of the rate study that was approved last year. The 2023 rate study recommended the city obtain a loan for the purchase of equipment needed for the additional field crews and for capital improvement projects for the stormwater department. The loan is in the process of being secured and will be presented to City Council, we're expecting in October. Expenditures of these loans are reflected in the maintenance budget for the equipment and the engineering budget for capital improvement projects. Other revenue for stormwater are the inspection fees, and we did the research. The inspection fees are comparable to the expense. Grant revenue is for the state appropriations for the P1 Weir project and the St. Johns River Water Management District grant for the London Waterway project, which will be discussed in the capital improvement slides. The interfund transfer amount is the remaining balance of the ARPA funding for the London Waterway project, again, which is currently under construction and will be discussed a little later. Other expenditures will be discussed in detail on the following slides. Any questions?
Oh, go ahead.
So the FY25 operating expenses increased by approximately $1.295 million for the purchase of the new equipment for the ditch and swale crew and a vacuum truck for the additional culvert crew. We had discussed this in detail in both May when we provided the update for the department, and we discussed it again in July. Again, it's part of the rate study.
Okay. Lynn, I'm sorry to go back just for a second. So you mentioned the ARPA funds. So does this really bring us to the conclusion of the ARPA funding that we enjoyed? Or does it continue on through another budget cycle as well? Thanks, Carl.
There are several projects throughout the city that we used ARPA funds are. Some were for fire, some were for utility, and some were for stormwater. The stormwater one is for the London Waterway, and that project is nearing completion. The fire did purchase some equipment, and that's been completed. We do have a utility project. I don't recall if that just went to council, or I think it's coming to council. Is it today? It's coming up to council. It's a water main in Old Kings Road, force main, to extend the water force main up to wastewater plant 1. So that will be coming to council. There's some deadlines on there. We have to be under contract by December, and then we have 2 years from December to spend the dollar.
That's where I was going. So are we approaching hard stops on the ARPA funding in terms of its availability?
Yeah, we have to be under contract by December, and we will meet those deadlines for all remaining funds.
Okay, that's what I wanted to know. Thank you. Good.
Also, as part of our maintenance budget are the request for 2 equipment operator 3s, 3 equipment operator 2s, as well as a swale specialist, temporary maintenance worker, and a stormwater system foreman. This is so that we can create the ditch crew that was outlined in the 2023 rate study. So moving on to the operations budget. Here we are requesting an engineering technician. Overall, the operations division is requesting a 17.3% increase. The increase does include the 2 additional personnel, also an increase in health insurance costs, and an increase in operating expenditures. Much of the increased costs are offset by a decrease in the interfund transfers and capital outlay expenses from equipment that we purchased last year. The request for new personnel includes the 1 engineering technician and 1 finance technician. The engineering technician position is responsible to create the swale plan diagrams for both new and rehab driveway construction. They also review new site plans for single-family homes for both infill lots and subdivisions, as well as they review and approve finished floor elevation surveys, final surveys, and they interact with contractors, surveyors, as well as other staff in other departments. Changes in our technical manual have required a more intense scrutiny and review of our various level of plans for the new construction. This additional workload has exceeded the 1 employee's capacity. This additional engineering technician would also assist with our GIS specialist to research as-built drawings and reflect various stormwater assets on our GIS maps. The increase in operating expenditures is due to the realignment of the survey and inspection staff expenses, which was moved from the engineering department to operations. Stormwater management. The Engineering and Construction Management Division is proposing an 87% increase for FY25. Most of this increase is for the capital outlay, capital improvement projects that Carl will be talking about a little later in the presentation. Funding for most of these projects will be included in the 20-year loan, and we'll have more discussion later. Non-departmental, FY25 interfund transfer decreased partly due to the decrease in pilot fees. The major change in this account is due to the increased debt service payment, the debt service payment and loan fees for the equipment and capital projects that were discussed earlier. Any questions?
So this is the nuts and bolts, or the fruit and nuts of infrastructure that we are hearing about daily and throughout the campaign and on and on. So are there any questions? This is where the infrastructure actually happens on these pages.
How many new hires are you asking for totally?
We're looking for 10 positions.
10 positions. We had discussed subcontracting out swales.
So we did some research on subcontracting swales. There was a local community, City of Sebastian, that went out recently for a bid to do some swale work in their city, similar to our open type of swales. And we found that their cost for the contractor to come in and do it, was pretty significantly higher than what we currently do it for our expenditures. So I did an evaluation.
You said significantly small.
So I did the evaluation based on our cost to do swale work. And I also included our administration fees, portion of administration fees. It came out to about, I believe it was $13 per linear foot of swale work. The contracted price between $16.50 and $29 per linear foot were the contract prices. Those prices also did not include disposal fees. They did not include sod.
But you did just one small city comparison.
That was the only bid that we found out there.
There was no one else doing bids on swale work anywhere in the state or nearby us, or?
Our research did not return any other municipalities that were doing bid work for swales.
Okay, so I don't know how deep your research is, but I know, like, if I get an estimate to get work done at my house, I get more than one bid. I would really, I don't know if there's more research we can do or not, but what was their, how big was this city?
Sebastian's about 30,000 people, with
20,000
yeah.
people? Okay. So they're, a third of us or less, I would guess.
Yes, sir.
It'd be nice to know if, I don't know how much research you did. I'm not going to ask you to go through the whole procedures now, obviously. But it would be nice to know if there was anyone else out there. I don't know if we have time to do that. But, normally you find there's more than one person out there doing this type of work, I would have to guess.
So we will certainly continue doing our due diligence to see if there's any differences there. We'll continue doing the research.
Thank you.
This report regarding the analysis of the cost was distributed to City Council?
No, Mayor, I think that's my fault, and Carl and Lynn did write it up, but in between me coming and going the last couple of weeks, I forgot to send it, but I will send it to you now.
Am I thinking about a different study that was done that showed an increase in cost? Maybe I'm thinking of something else that we did all get. Nope. Okay.
If I may, I remember receiving, I think you all sent it to us, what you had found, so thank you for doing that, first of all. In your research, did you find that cities, because you said your research didn't find a lot of cities bidding out for that work, did you find that cities were doing it themselves?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. 10 positions is a lot. However, if we think about what we've been through over the last year with stormwater, we've heard very clearly from the public that that is a very big infrastructure concern. So I think between the public safety emphasis and the stormwater emphasis, this is us devoting resources towards what we are hearing that the public wants. So it's a lot. I hope that we see, and I will hold the department accountable to see some real improvements. But I think what I've heard from the public is that there have been improvements that they've already felt. So I commend you and look forward to seeing an improvement in the stormwater.
Yes, I just want to direct our attention to the fact that obviously this is of major concern within the budget, and it doesn't mean that we shouldn't continue to look for possible subcontractors, but so far, I certainly wouldn't stop that effort.
Mayor, we do know that this is a priority of City Council, and we're working hard on your priority number 6 of citizen engagement. So we're looking at a tool that will give the public this information on a monthly basis and more of a transparent dashboard. So we're working on that and hopefully launching that in October.
And just one last comment, and it has to do with, I think, the Vice Mayor's comment as well. There are a number of initiatives, some of them over on the TPO side regarding roadways and other areas, and Carl, I think, is familiar with it as well, where there are regional approaches to some of these subcontracting initiatives. So again, I don't know that anybody else in our immediate region has a swale system comparable to ours, but I know that folks are looking for economies of scale, which might be available if we took a regional approach. So instead of just looking for cities that might be of similar size, reaching out to the municipalities within our, let's say, 5-county region might find you an answer as well if anybody else is doing that.
Thank you.
Okay.
And on the previous slide, were you showing a transfer for the Maintenance Operations Center, $2.5 million each for the next 2 fiscal years? Is that what we're seeing here? Cool, so the funding's back on for the Maintenance Operations Center?
Yes.
Cool, all right, cool.
Okay, thank you. Who's next?
Thank you, Lynn. Next, we will move on to the Building Fund, Information Technology, and Collection and Sanitation Funds. There have been no changes since your July 23rd presentation. There are no personnel requests for either the Building Fund or the Information Technology Enterprise Fund. There is a request for 1 new FTE for Collections and Sanitation, and we will go into more detail when we cover their budget. So the Building Fund increases include regular salary and operational increases. There was a 10.5%. The Information Technology Enterprise Fund has remained relatively flat at 2.6%. The Collection and Sanitation Fund budget has increased to accommodate the current contract for solid waste residential services and for the addition of a compliance hauling officer. So next we have a summary of our stormwater and utility capital 5-year budgets. Director Carl Cody will review with you the changes that have been made since your last presentation.
Okay, so on this first slide, you're going to see the Water and Wastewater Capital Project Fund summary. So this here shows the 5-year plan, and it shows those increased capacity fees for water and wastewater. So you can see those steadily increasing over each year. We have the interest on investments, special assessment district, that's the loan payback for the first phase of Oak Kings Road that was assessed. There are various other transfers in here from the CRA Kickstart program. We have the utility fund balance that's coming in to assist with funding some of our capital projects. We have some grant projects with Flagler County utilizing some of their ARPA funds, as well as a DEP grant, and we have the state appropriation for $2 million, and then we have debt proceeds that were proposed in the rate study. And then we have appropriated fund balance, and that's necessary based on our expenses. So as you work your way down, you can see the dollars of the various components, coming up with the total budget of $83 million. You have just over almost $17 million in R&R, water improvements of a little over $22 million, wastewater improvements of $42.5 million roughly, and then a transfer of capacity fees for the MOC. Future years do not show any transfers for MOC because the current utility rates will not support a transfer.
Just tell me, Carl, the reason for the bump in the kickstart, just take me through that real quick.
That is the repayment of the CRA. Available funds in the town center CRA will go to pay back those projects. So as there's funding available in the CRA, we pay the utility back.
And is it according to a formula, or?
It's based on available funding. We have other transfers. We have $1.2 million that was used many years ago to purchase property on Bulldog that the general fund loaned the CRA. That's transferred back in '25 to pay back and then help fund one of the fire stations.
So I'm struggling with the available funding. So how is that?
We have some set, so you have.
How's it prioritized?
Well, you have some current obligations.
Okay.
Like the UNF MedNexus lease and agreements that were in place. We have shared costs on some park capacity projects like Lehigh Trailhead and Southern Rec Center. So those are obligations that were tied to the funding of those projects where they were paying the non-capacity portion of those projects. Then from there we have other obligations,
So you're satisfying a timeline of existing obligations. In other words, you're not picking and choosing, you're following what's due and prioritizing according to that. Okay, thank you.
So whatever is left, we send to the utility fund.
Question was about the Kickstart program because there's a big bump there. Okay.
So we can get into some of the specific categories of projects. This is the Water Capital Projects Fund. You can see in '25 we have numerous projects out there. A lot of them have to do with capacity, adding wells, expansion of the water treatment plant design. We have some water main work as well, extensions. So these are all capacity related. And then in future years, you can see that there's additional projects moving out, again, as was depicted and presented in prior workshops and part of the rate study. Wastewater Capital Projects Fund. We have in the coming year, we have numerous rehab, R&R type projects. We have the expansion of wastewater plant 2, which will be completed. We have some dollars in here for wastewater plant 1 expansion in future years. In the coming year, we'll be continuing to complete the design. We are currently wrapping up the initial study that was done in the initial design work, but we'll be coming back to council to award a contract to complete the design so then we can move forward with the construction and expansion of the plant as well as rehab of the existing plant. Because it is a 50-year-old facility, it does require some R&R and conversion of that plant over of the treatment system to match the new system when it's constructed. These dollars here show a higher dollar than what was in the rate study, and that will be discussed later when we do come back with the gap analysis. We have some other projects for some force mains extensions. Some of them are tied to the grant projects or ARPA projects with the county, as well as the city's force main that I alluded to earlier today. as well as some reclaim mains extensions on here as well. So that covers the water and wastewater type projects. You know, just to summarize, the R&R projects were limited. You know, when the rate study was not adopted, we delayed, deferred, reduced cost for R&R because we weren't able to increase our transfer. The intent of the study was to increase it to 15%. We was at 10% at one point. We tried to raise it to 12.5%. This rate study recommended us going to 15%, but we were unable to do that. So without increasing the rate. So we're basically only shifting what the rates can allow. I believe we have to do at least a minimum of 5%. So going to the Stormwater Management Fund. So these are the various revenues. You know, the top line is the bulk of the revenues that come to this fund. Those are from the monthly charges that residents receive. We do have some ad valorem tax in here that has a slight increase annually. We do have some grants that were mentioned, the ARPA for London Waterway as a St. John's River Water Management District grant we have, as well as the appropriation received for P1 replacement. We do have the proposed loan proceeds for various capital projects in the coming year. And then the other revenue was what Lynn indicated was for the charges for services associated with permits.
And Carl, the calculation on the ad valorem tax over the next couple of years there, how do you do that?
That was done back in 2011 when the initial assessment analysis was done, and I don't know how it was established. Every city does it differently. Most cities have some general fund going to support the stormwater utility. That number was chosen at that time. And
yeah, could we make a note then for the future since it was done in 2011, it may need to be...
I think it was set by council. I don't believe it was part of the stormwater rate study because that really goes by an ERU per property. So that portion of it would be something council would decide and determine.
Right, but those numbers are not even relevant today if it was done in 2011, is my point. I'm just asking for them to relook at how the calculation was decided, if it's appropriate for today's budgeting or not. Because it's, yeah.
I can go through the records and look up and see if I can find some explanation or justification
I'm more
how that was
concerned that
established.
it's appropriate for what's happening today, as opposed to back in 2011.
When we've done our stormwater rate update, every city does it differently. Some fund it 50%, some fund it 0%, some fund it a little bit. There's no standard formula to look at, I guess is what I'm saying.
Yeah, I don't think I'm being clear in my question. Go ahead.
So are you saying that back in 2011, City Council set a policy to every year put a certain amount of ad valorem revenues into stormwater?
Yes.
Okay. Helena, are you going to shed some light on this for us?
Yes, and I believe it's related to exempt properties. There are certain properties that are exempt from stormwater charges per state statute. So I believe the calculation was done, I wasn't part of it, but my understanding is the calculation was done to establish what that would be and that would be supported by the general fund. I don't think it's a requirement that we do that, so we can certainly at the next rate study bring that up, whether you want to continue that practice or not.
Yeah, I think that's necessary, but
We're not scheduled for another rate study
Not for a long time.
Yeah.
That's what I was about to say. I mean, I think that's a good idea, but we have a while. And being that ad valorem is directly tied to millage, this is a pretty important piece of the puzzle in my mind. Do we, obviously, so right now we're looking at 529,000. Do we have, what's the percentage of that roughly?
Ooh.
Do we know?
I have the calculation. I can send it to you, but I don't have it at the top of my head. So yes, and then what they've done through the rate studies, through the past 3 rate studies, is indexed by like what they expect to be the development in exempt properties. That's why it grows by such a small amount every
Only
year.
the exempt properties.
Yes.
yeah.
So if we were to reduce that number, okay, if we were to reduce what we decide to fund, how would that affect this slide that we're looking at right here?
Well, the rate study was based on the total revenue. So if you reduce the ad valorem taxes, then the charges for services would need to go up, or we would have to cut some services that is currently being funded by stormwater.
Got it. Thank you.
Can't have more with less?
What's that?
We can't have more with less? That would crack the code.
Thank you, Governor DeSantis. Okay,
So looking at the 5-year plan, this goes into a little more detail on the types of projects we have coming up in the next 5 years. In '25, we do have quite a few projects. That's why we're seeking that capital loan for those capital projects. You can see there's several projects. We have Blair Castle, a major pipe on Colbert Lane. We have capacity improvements. We have the completion of the London Waterway project. We have K-section improvements. We have the weir replacement at P1. We have some other improvements with pipelining and just our standard canal maintenance, our canal dredging, that's freshwater canal dredging. And then you saw the transfers to new equipment, which Lynn spoke of, and the transfer for the mock is in here as well.
and just as an example, weeds go up because the cost of chemicals go up. We don't have more weeds, right?
Yes,
I think
we
they go up
have a contract.
$100,000 in the next couple of years.
Yes, we have a contract, and that was established when we went out to the RFSQ.
But is that cost of chemicals and material, or are you
Which
covering
line
more
item
area?
specifically are you referring to?
Weed control, about a little more than halfway down on the slide.
Yes, weed control, those were fixed costs that were in their proposal. We asked for rates for the first 3 years,
Yeah.
and those were those dollars for those years that increased. Personnel and chemicals were anticipated in their initial bid.
Okay.
So we weren't tying it to CPI or nothing, so we got a hard bid for those years.
Got it. Anybody else?
Any other questions?
Oh, okay.
Thank you, Carl. We will now look at all remaining funds. So the city has 4 internal service funds. This is how we budget for departments that provide day-to-day services and support 2 other city departments. This is a summary of the current FTEs and requests. There were no new personnel requests for fleet management or facilities management. Per council's direction at the July 13th presentation, an FTE has been added to the information technology budget. The fleet management budget has decreased by 7%, primarily due to the decrease in requests for white fleet and equipment for fiscal year 2025. This is a list of the requests for the new white fleet and equipment for fiscal year 2025. A resolution, agenda item, and backup will be presented on September 18th. The Facilities Management Fund has remained relatively flat. And the Information Technology Internal Service Fund increase includes adding 1 FTE for a programmer per direction from council, as well as additional costs for software and repairs and maintenance. This is a summary of the capital funds changes since your August 13th presentation are as follows. So the capital project fund budget for fiscal year 2025 is $19 million. This is an increase of $1.4 million from your last presentation for additional park rehab, IT upgrades, fire station bay door replacement increased costs, energy improvements, and to move expenses from fiscal year 2024 to 2025 for the Southern Recreation Facility Phase 2. The Streets Improvement Fund budget for fiscal year 2025 is $8 million. This includes $6.3 million for street rehabilitation and renewal. There have been no changes in this fund since the last presentation. The Transportation Impact Fee Fund budget for fiscal year 2025 is $42 million. There has been an additional $750,000 for traffic signals since your August 13th presentation. The Town Center Transportation Impact Fee Fund for fiscal year 2025 is $900,000 for for the Royal Palms Parkway. There have been no changes since your August 13th presentation. The Recreation Impact Fee Fund budget for fiscal year 2025 is $4.6 million. $143,000 for Lehigh Trailhead has been moved from fiscal year 24 to fiscal year 25. No other changes have been made since your August 13th presentation. The Fire Impact Fee Fund budget for fiscal year 2025 is $16 million. This includes $8 million for Fire Station 26 and $8 million for Fire Station 22 replacement. There have been no changes since your August 13th presentation. The State Road 100 Community Redevelopment Agency Fund budget for fiscal year 2025 is $3.5 million, and there have been no changes since the August 13th presentation. The Old Kings Road Special Assessment Fund budget for fiscal year 2025 is $1.6 million. This includes $750,000 for a road study funded by grants and $500,000 for design. There have been no changes since your August 13th presentation.
Question, 1.9 million, I think I heard you say change in the capital projects fund. What prompted those changes from the last presentation?
We will ask Carl to come and answer that question for you.
Thank you, sorry,
No problem.
Yes, some of those were based on projections, like our sports lighting over at the existing tennis center were projected to come in before October 1st. Now they won't arrive till October 5th. So we shifted some dollars in 24 into 25 that we thought we were going to spend this fiscal year, but we're not. There were a few dollars. We had some better estimates that were provided to us for like the solar on the fire station roofs, for the fiber connections. We added a little bit of dollars for the city hall here. Our server, our project, it's on the agenda today for the server room. We thought we'd have some expenses this year. Those were shifted over. So there are several projects in there. I believe there might have been a couple park rehab projects that we added some, or facility rehab that we added some dollars in for next year, but they were fairly minor overall. But the big ones were the Musco lighting was the biggest one in there.
So this is like a 10% swing, right, in that number?
It's not 100%. There were a few adjustments based on some updated cost estimates as well.
But 10%, that's my concern. It just seems like the magnitude of the number seems large.
Right, I think just the lighting was, like $300,000 to $400,000 just from material. So that was a big push from 24 to 25. So.
All right, thank you.
It's not new money being spent, it's just which year we're spending it in.
Right, understood.
So that's not all brand new dollars, that 1.9 million. Just the bulk of it is transfers.
Transfers, all right.
Well, year expenditures.
Yep. Thank you, Carl.
Okay, so moving along, this is a summary of all other remaining funds. There were no changes from your August 13th presentation. The Community Development Block Grant Fund accounts for several programs, including housing rehab assistance to the community. The Police Education Fund is used for specialized deputy training. These funds are collected from fines within the city through the clerk of court and then submitted to the sheriff's office. The Disaster Reserve Fund is used to account for any federal assistance usually associated with hurricanes. The Special Events Fund is funded by the recycling revenue from our solid waste contract. Some of the current events planned from these funds are our holiday parade, Arbor Day, July 4th fireworks, and the tree lighting ceremony. The American Rescue Plan Fund Act budget includes funding for the London Waterway expansion, Fire Station 22, and Wastewater Plant 1, Old Kings Road Force Main Addition. Again, these funds need to be obligated by December 31st, 2024, and expended by December 31st, 2026. The Neighborhood Stabilization Program, this is the balance left in the Neighborhood Stabilization Fund. The Community Redevelopment staff is currently working with the respective state agencies to transfer to the CDBG program. The Health Insurance Fund is where we account for costs related to our employees' health insurance. These benefits include claims, admin fees, stop-loss insurance, wellness programs, and other related expenses. The Emergency Communications Fund is where we account for the operational costs and future replacement costs for the emergency communications system. Are there any questions on this slide?
No.
Okay, so this is the big picture of all fund expenditures. You can see that the total for all funds is approximately $421.8 million. This represents an increase of 17.9% from your fiscal year 2024 adopted budget. Water and wastewater utility account for $155 million, or 37%. Capital projects, streets improvement, and impact fee funds account for $89 million, or 21%. The general fund accounts for $61 million, or 15%. Stormwater accounts for $47 million, or 11%, and the balance of all other remaining funds account for 16% of the total budget. So now we will go over the truth in millage, your trim.
Go back just for a second for me. Where is, oh, there it is, fire, I see that, okay. All right, go ahead.
Okay. This graph shows the history of our millage rate since 2012. The chart shows the history of the last several years for the millage rate, property values, and the receipts collected. The city has been experiencing an increase in property values as well as population growth. The fiscal year's 2025 values are based on the property appraiser's July 1st valuation and assuming a millage rate of 4.2154. This chart offers a millage rate comparison of our neighboring cities and counties. Palm Coast has the second lowest millage rate with one of the highest population rates. Communities are different, so this doesn't represent an apples-to-apples comparison. This illustration offers a quick look at how each dollar of tax collected is allocated between taxing authorities. Flagler County receives 45 cents, the school board 29 cents, the city of Palm Coast 23 cents, and the other taxing districts receive the remaining 3 cents. This distribution is based on the millage rates that are set by each authority.
And the millage rate cap is 10? Mm-hmm. That's set by law, right?
That is correct. So this is a look at the millage rate options. The rollback rate is 3.9961. The fiscal year 2024 adopted rate was 4.2570. The adopted maximum millage rate is 4.2154 for fiscal year 2025, and the proposed rate for fiscal year 2025 is 4.2154. I will now turn it over to City Manager Lauren Johnston.
Thank you, Gwen. City Council, you directed staff to look at the millage and see if there was any way that we could comb through all of the budgets again and find an additional reduction. As mentioned by our finance team earlier in the presentation, we found an additional $250,000 to reduce the millage, or a scenario could be to keep that $250,000 in non-departmental and be used for other things that were indicated in your presentation. If City Council chose an option to continue to reduce the millage, that millage would be 4.1893. And I just want to highlight the overall themes of this budget. Thank you, Councilmember Pontieri. Over 45% of this budget is being prioritized for public safety. That's 9 new deputies and a contractual increase, as well as an increase for our fire department. We're also protecting our quality of life with enhanced code enforcement and short-term rental adherence for the new tentative ordinance that's coming in front of you at your next business meeting, maintaining our beautification program of our city medians and right-of-ways. Also in this budget is an increase in our streetlights on roadways, which was a previous city council priority to have those to light up our streets and our residential roads for safety purposes. Also maintaining program and amenities in our parks and recreation departments with additional hours at the very popular Southern Recreation Center, as well as additional grant funding for cultural arts with management for FC3. So we were able to accommodate that request. Also included in this budget option is a focus on your strategic action plan priority 6, which is citizens engagement, and an IT programmer to help build out a Palm Coast mobile app. And then finally, it's protecting our quality workforce with a cost of living at 3.9%, which is the same as what the county has adopted, as well as the sheriff. And City Council took action on city employees' health benefits. So I wanted to give you an additional scenario that was not necessarily identified in this budget, but help you determine how we're going to set the millage rate for next week at your budget hearing.
Comments from city council members?
Appreciate all your hard work. However, the public would appreciate a full millage rate rollback. And I think there's places you can find the cut. That's your job. That's your department head jobs. But I won't vote for anything less than a full millage rate rollback. I meant too many people this election season, too many seniors that are really suffering out there. People that lost their spouses, lost half of their Social Security income. I meant older people that are skipping meals because of the price of groceries, the price of gasolines, the price of home insurance, car insurance, the price of everything. I'm sorry, but we can't get everything we want. You know, it doesn't happen that way. Folks are making sacrifices at home. This is not a big sacrifice on our part to find a few more dollars to get that full millage rate rollback. And that's how I feel about this.
Councilwoman?
So I commend staff for finding another $250,000. May I ask where that was found?
Yes, we did find some things where we could do a one-time appropriation and then a review of our state revenue final estimates and interest calculation adjustments.
Okay. Again, I mean, I commend staff for getting us there because we've already gone back a little bit from last year's rate, and now this is going to be a second rollback. Although it's not a full rollback, it is 2 reductions just this budget cycle. I have to ask, because as we look to next week in doing the first adoption hearing of the millage rate, Vice Mayor, what policies would you want to affect? Because I understand what you're saying, it's staff's job, but we direct them based on the policies that we adopt.
Right.
So I guess my question for you, so that I can go back this week and look, what policies would you recommend we take a second look at in order to reduce the millage?
I didn't recommend a policy, okay? It's not our job to micromanage each department. We're not capable of it. We're not in each department. I don't know how many employees each department needs. But at the beginning of this process, our city manager told us that there would be no new hires. Now I'm seeing a bunch of new hires. So you can say they were left over from last year's budget or whatever. They're still new hires. I've not seen one layoff, not one reduction in the workforce. Are you our city manager or are you the union shop steward? Because this is very concerning to me. When companies make cutbacks, when people at home make cutbacks, when we've been through Bidenomics and all of these ridiculous cost of living increases, we just continue to add more staff. And we had a conversation last week. We talked about this proposal that you guys did when I wasn't here, that was in a workshop, on getting developers and builders to pay more into the arts. Geez, I mean, you said to me you're going to have to hire some additional staff to manage that if we do this. This, to me, is we need to tighten the belt a bit more. Where is up to you guys? You know where you need to tighten. You know where you can tighten. I can't go in. If you want me to go in and tighten for you, give me that authority. I'd be happy to go and do it. I'd get it done in 2 minutes. But that's your job, and that's your staff's job. So I think, again, the public has had enough. Obviously, the public has had enough with 3 of us up here. And why do you think that is?
Hey, I'm
It's
term
things like
limited.
this.
I'm term limited up here, so don't
Yeah,
lot me
but I'm
into
just
this.
saying that, me too, I wasn't running to come back here, but that, you know, it was dumped on us. There's a message there. So my message now is we got to start listening a little bit more. And I can assure you, I'm going to be doing that until the end of my session here. And the first thing we need to do here is this rollback. And it has to be a full millage rate rollback. There's got to be places you can find the cut. And if there isn't, maybe we need to find someone who can.
So
That's my answer to your
Well,
question.
that's-
I'm not
but-
going to go in and micromanage every department.
I'm not asking you to micromanage, Vice Mayor, and I'm just going to restate this one more time, because I feel like I've beaten this dead horse to death. It is our job to direct policy. So if the policy direction should be, maybe we don't hire another code enforcement officer in order to address the short-term rentals that we all up here said that we would address.
Maybe we use an existing code enforcement officer and reassign that person to that job. Yes.
So Vice Mayor, if, that's my point. If that is the policy direction, then that is the direction that should be given to city manager and to staff. But it is inappropriate to sit up here and say, find it, when we have established SAP priorities, and when we have said, hey, we think it's important enough to have another code enforcement officer out there partially spending their time specifically on short-term rentals, and then to come back and say, well, no, I want a full millage rate rollback, so don't do that. If that's what you want.
Not what I'm saying.
But that's my point.
That's not what I'm saying.
You haven't said anything.
What I'm saying is, let our city manager and our staff find the cuts that will get us to the full millage rate rollback.
My question.
And I'm saying to you is, we don't get everything we want, everything in our strategic action plan. Just because we want it doesn't mean we get it.
You're absolutely right.
And
but
that's what I'm saying.
My question for you is, can you please go into the strategic action plan and direct staff and say, you know what, this is because right now, what you are saying is that the only priority you want to advance is a full millage rate rollback.
The only priority I want to advance is not to cost our taxpayers an additional penny in taxes next year.
Okay.
That's what I want
let's-
to address. Now, on the
Done. I'm
strategic
done.
action plan, not all of us had different items in that plan. And I don't specifically remember what your item was, or Kathy's item was, or Clufus's item was. It doesn't matter. Just because we want it, we don't get it. So I'm trusting our city manager and our staff to comb through it and say, all right, you guys, if your real priority is not to raise taxes, here's where we're going to make some cuts.
Okay.
So
That's what
Okay,
I'm saying.
all right, let's
I'm-
try not to repeat ourselves. So I understand the point, I get it, I respect the points, I respect your points. Let me know when you're done.
I just one last statement. I
Okay.
understand what you're saying. I just think that as we're looking, and this is my kind of, I guess, recommendation as we move forward to find a resolution. We continue to scale back the strategic action priorities to look at necessities for infrastructure and things
Okay.
that the city needs, so that we can, more narrowly focus the funds. But I commend staff in finding more cuts to give us an even lower millage.
Yes, and that's great. I'm glad
Okay.
we got a little bit lower, but I want us to get to the full
So-
millage rate rollback. So that means additional cuts. Where exactly? I'm going to trust
Okay.
them to find them.
All right, we've made the point, we respect it, I got everybody's opinion. Let me just add, my comment is more data-driven, so I would challenge each of you with the following as we approach the deadline for budget. So I worked long and hard with the property appraiser to come up with, and again, you can challenge my numbers, and I welcome that. 75%, actually more than 75% of our residents in the city of Palm Coast over the last 4 years, that would be from the year 2020 through the year 2023, have enjoyed a 0.7% decrease, or a $17.06 decrease in their median tax bill. In other words, if I look at all of the homesteaded, that's the 75%, the homesteaded residents of the city of Palm Coast have actually enjoyed a decrease in their city of Palm Coast tax bill over the 4-year period. So I just want to put the data point out there. The information is available from the property appraiser so that we're all working with the same correct information. Mr. Clufus, do you have a comment?
Just asterisk on yours. I think that's adjusted for inflation, right? Would your current figures be adjusted?
Those are actual numbers.
Okay, gotcha. So it's literal, not even adjusted for inflation.
Correct.
Even better. Okay, perfect. I would commend city staff for going back, finding $250,000. I think you touched on something very important, is that we are creating a bigger inequality every year that we have more and more people claiming homestead exemptions. I'm one of them. I am very, I say, hey, I don't want my taxes to go up either, but we have to take a sharp look at reality that we're creating this inequality between taxes collected versus the property taxes that are rising, but also the level of services that we have been providing to our citizens adjusted for inflation. Because if that transitory number is lower than the adjustment for inflation to services offered to our citizens, then even if we were to hold steady, there's going to be a suffering of services. So to me, it's math, and I think that we have heard from our public loud and clear that we needed to increase services, specifically, in places like our swale management. I think adding another internal swale management team is something that we can't say the citizens didn't want. I think we do a great job managing our funds, and our millage rate has been as tight as it could be for the expected services that we have here in Palm Coast. I support the proposed fiscal year millage rate, and I support that because I think it's the level of service that we provide to our citizens that is tangibly measurable to the quality of life here in Palm Coast, and I'm willing to compromise that.
All right, yes, final comment?
Just final comment is, in order to kind of allow staff to move forward, I would like to see the 4.1893 millage rate added as an option next week when we look at the first adoption hearing.
I'm sorry, which one?
The city manager said that they found another 250,000, which reduced the millage rate once more to 4.1893.
Oh, that's even lower than these numbers?
Yes.
Oh, understood. Okay, gotcha. I thought that took the 250 into account.
That's good.
That's
So
what I
it
would
gets
like
us
to
down.
see.
Yep. Okay,
Wasn't
I
the
think everybody would like to see
$250,000
that.
in the contingency for discussion, though?
Yes, so the $250,000 are currently on your non-departmental budget for council consideration. So if you wanted us to use that $250 to reduce the millage, we would prepare that presentation for you for the 5th with those numbers. And it would equate to a
4.18.
4.18.
4.1893, sorry.
Say it one more time,
4.1893.
Yes.
We would
Say
appreciate
it
that,
now.
and we appreciate the fact that you've identified it, and then we all have to agree that that's
So
how
how
you have
much
to apply
would
it.
you have to find in addition to get us to the 3.9961?
It would be a loss of 2.14 million.
So just 2.4, 2.1?
2.1 million.
2.1 million. We can't find, how much is this total budget?
So, Vice Mayor, we would not be able to accommodate anything that was requested, right? So no new additional deputies.
No.
wouldn't-
Take the deputies off the table. I'm asking, out of our budget, how much is our total budget?
Helena, can you go to the summary slide, please?
3-something, right?
Your general fund for next year? Is that what you're asking, Vice
The
Mayor?
total budget for
I think
next
that's
year.
It would
what
have to be
It's
general
what,
fund.
It's on your screen.
309?
61.
421.
But really, it's the 61 million, right?
I'm sorry, how much is it?
The general
The
fund
total
is
budget
61.
for the city proposed for fiscal year 2025 is 421 million. The
421.
general fund budget proposed for 25 is 61 million. There's a difference between the general fund and the total budget, as you have proprietary capital funds, you also have internal services, and special revenue funds.
Because that 2 million would have to come from the general fund.
Right, that's fine. Or from our
Last year.
reserves, correct?
Oh, we already took 250, we're already hitting the reserves.
How much
for
are our
this.
reserves?
So we had a little over 4 million as of the last, over the excess fund balance. As of the last audit, we are taking 3.5 million to transfer for the Fire Station 22, as that project was over budgeted and unable to be funded. Unable to be funded without the additional revenue. We also have appropriated fund balance in this budget, a little bit over $1 million, and that is for funding the contingency, for funding the adjustment, the Value Adjustment Board contingency. 175,000 is for the comp plan and the Land Development Code update. There's also 160,000 that was left for economic development budget that's being carried to 25, and 2 one-time equipment uses, fire department 63,000 and golf 34,000.
So how much is left in our reserves?
Probably another 500,000, if that in there,
Just,
in
we only have
excess
a
of the
half a
fund
million
balance.
in reserves?
In excess of the fund balance requirements.
And what is the
So
fund
you have a
balance
fund balance
requirement?
policy that is between 10 to 20% of next year's
Right.
expenditures. As we reviewed with our auditors and the presentation to council, their recommended is actually 25% as a max, not to 20%.
Right, but we're required to have 20%.
The recommendation
Recommendation by
is, it's not actually required. but
Not
it's
even
It's a
required.
recommendation.
It's the
though,
city
strong
council fund balance
recommendation.
policy.
It's our
So how much do we
policy.
have in there is what I'm asking? What's the
Budget, how
total
much do we
amount?
have budgeted right now for that?
How much do we have budgeted for 25?
No, how much is
How much
actually-
is in unrestricted fund balance for the general fund as of September 30, 2023?
How much is in the reserves?
Either 15 million or 18 million as of
15 or
September
18
30th.
million? Okay, so it's either 15 or 18 million is what you're telling me.
Yes, I have to have the
That's a
numbers in
$3
front of
million
me.
difference.
Yeah.
Which is it?
I'll have to go get the financial statements and send that question for you.
We
So if you
can't
give me a
take
minute,
2
I'll be right
million-
back.
We can't take, we don't even know if it's 15 or 18.
Not without violating the policy that we've
The
set.
policy, but not any state law or anything
No,
of
but
that
we,
nature.
but it's our policy.
Yeah, we have to stick with our
Yeah,
policy.
I mean,
You want to talk about
unless you
guardrails
want-
for
Well, I'm
water?
just saying,
Unless you want to change the policy, which I don't
well,
think
I'm
is
just
the
saying
moment for
either
that.
15 million sticks to our policy or
Okay.
18 million
And-
sticks to our
and
policy.
You
which
are
is
going
it?
to, yeah, sorry, you are going to come back with, as requested, the 4.1893 number. The other thing I would ask is, if you take your median home price, which is the 75% of the people that we're talking about, what are the real dollars that changes the tax bill? I'd ask you to calculate that for me.
Okay, so,
Because at the end of the day, it's going to be remarkably small in terms of dollars. Not that dollars aren't important, but it's going to be a few bucks is the bottom line. But I'd like you to show that. Did you want to say something? Huge what? Okay.
so for clarification purposes, you want me to bring back the difference between the 4.89?
Roll back. How many dollars is it
Okay,
going to save?
absolutely.
That's all.
Okay.
Okay. Just so we know what it really means.
And for next week, can we have the specifics on the reserves, please?
Absolutely.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, so we're going to continue to move forward. Our next steps would be to, we'll bring back these options for you at your tentative budget hearing, where we set the millage rate and the revised fiscal year 24 budget at the first public hearing on Thursday, September 5th at 5:15 PM.
If you could do a huge favor and you could have historical balances for the reserve funds, I think that'd be awesome.
Okay.
It'd allow me an opportunity to pat myself on the back one more time.
I would at least say since Councilman Clufus's tenure, that would be
Yeah,
helpful.
that'd be awesome.
Sure. And just an aside question, just to make sure that we understand it. The chart of accounts that the subheadings in the chart of accounts for the fund balances are consistent during this period of time. I'm really asking apples to apples to apples during the period of time. In other words, has the chart of account definitions, have they changed during this period of time with regard to fund balances? Am my question clear or not?
Yes, the question is clear. There was significant changes, I believe, with GASB 54 when it was implemented to split and change.
So footnote for us if there were changes so that we know that it's a legitimate comparison, or we need to consider that it was changed because of whatever it was.
Yes.
Fair enough?
Of course.
Okay.
The final public hearing is on Wednesday, September 18th at 5:15 PM to adopt the fiscal year 25 budget and millage rate. And we just want to remind the public that all of our budget presentations are on our city's website. Presentations, budget calendar, and supporting documents are located on that site.
And remind me, Wednesday is because?
We have to fall in line with the other hearing agents,
Right.
the other municipalities setting their
No,
budgets.
only because the public is going to be confused that we're having a meeting on a Wednesday instead of a Tuesday. I just want to make sure that we're crystal clear about when that happens, because we don't normally have a Wednesday meeting.
Correct.
Can we also come back with a budget, a proposed budget, with the full millage rate rollback, showing us what we would be losing if we did the full millage rate rollback?
I think you got to pick what you want to take out of it.
I'd like to see that. I'd like to
No,
see
but
what
yeah,
we would be
I think
losing.
Staff has
based
showed
on
you,
that.
staff has showed you what they can do. Now it's back to council.
That's that you can do, is that what you're saying, Lauren, or can you come back with a budget with some proposals that would show us what we'd have to give
I
up
think
to
staff
get
has
to
been
that
clear.
budget?
Respectfully, Mayor, that's exactly what I was asking you a few minutes ago. What is the direction that you would give staff as far as policy goes? Is your suggestion, hey, you know what, let's get rid of the beautification program? What would that do to the budget? Let's only give the sheriff 5 new deputies instead of 4. What would that do to the budget? My question for you is, what is the policy that you can get
for each of
behind
us.
to give staff?
You're asking me where I would make cuts, and I'm not
No,
in
I'm not.
each department.
No,
But
I'm
I would
not.
like to know what a budget could possibly look like. And are you telling me that every single employee that we presently have is absolutely vital to running this city?
We look at efficiencies for our workforce. We do an efficiency analysis for every new position, whether they leave the organization on their own terms, and we say, do we need this position? What is the position required for? And we do that same screening whenever departments are requesting new. So there is a data analysis that goes along with every position.
What I'm basically hearing from you, correct me if I'm wrong, is you're not capable of providing a budget with the full millage rate rollback. If we tell you we want the full millage rate rollback, you can't provide us with a budget?
I don't think that's true, sir.
Okay,
I'm
then-
trying to seek policy direction from City Council of what you would like to prioritize. I hear a lot of things that everybody wants to do, but I need consensus from the dais on what policy that you would like to have implemented.
Find us another $2 million so we can have the full millage rate rollback. That's
Well,
what I'd like to do.
all right, well, I think we've beaten up the chicken and the egg as far as we can. So unless City Council, each of us, not just you, Vice Mayor, each of us, has a specific line item in the budget that we would like to see reduced, and then ask what is the result of that, then we can't. Staff has come forward and they have said, this is the budget, the best budget that they can provide based on what direction we have given them. So until that direction changes, they can't do any better.
All right, so you're basically telling the public they're not going to get a full millage rate rollback.
Not based on the policies that we have
Right.
adopted as council.
And you're not willing to change any policies. Is anybody willing to step up and say, I don't need this in my strategic action?
Well, I'm going to look very hard between now and the next meeting and see if I can find something else that I might suggest could be reduced. I'm not sure I'll find it, but I certainly will look, as I would hope each of us would be doing, as we go through the ending, the finale of this budget process. We should all be doing that, and hopefully one of us might find something that we can address here together, and then direct staff to reduce. Absolutely, 100%. And that's
don't know
part of the
how
process.
you do that
Yeah.
when you're not running those departments yourself.
Well,
And
easy.
a board of directors wouldn't know how you would do it in the real world.
But the
That's why
board-
they have a CEO, that's why they have vice presidents, that's why they set a policy of make some cuts, and they expect those folks to deliver those cuts. That's how the real world works.
You're right. The board of
does.
directors would say to the CEO, we can get rid of this department. And then the CEO would get rid of that department. What we're telling city manager right now is, okay, we've decided that we want this app for better communication to our residents. We want to fund the sheriff's budget. We want to fund the increase in the health insurance for our employees.
We want to maintain
If
our
the-
utilities.
Right. If there's something in the general fund that any of us says, you know what, I would prefer the full millage rather than funding this policy, then that is what city manager needs direction.
And I will bring my proposal back for sure by the next meeting, because I've been, deep into the budget. I haven't located or identified it yet, but I will continue to search.
So have I.
I also was not fortunate enough to find the $3 million slush fund line item. I was looking for it, but I couldn't find it either.
Does that conclude your presentation?
That does conclude our presentation. Thank you.
If there are no other comments right now from City Council, I will open this up for public comment, this discussions item.
Celia Puglisi, I'm here since 1991. I live in Palm Coast. Mr. Mayor, I have to disagree with your statement that you mentioned that Mr. Jay Garner, our appraiser, maybe he was wrong. I'm a taxpayer here, and since 91 living here, I'm very much homesteaded. I've been receiving increases. Now, I have not, and for this coming bill that I just got, $100 increase. When to my friends that are not homesteaded, it's like $600, $800. So, but I do have an increase. Last year, I got a small increase. Now, I didn't get an increase in 2 years or 3, I believe, from the city. City did not increase. But you know what? We're fine. We are fighting with you over our budget. And the biggest omen we do have in our budget is the county. We're paying $45 to the county for every $23 that we pay to the city in our yearly ad valorems. I think we need to start going more to the county. I did ask this consul and past other consuls with Mrs. Holland and Mr. Nets. I said, hey, what are we doing here? Paying this $45.23 to our city that has to pay all our roads and everything. Okay, something has to be done. Somebody has to have the initiative in our city to see what's going on within the county and the services they give us. Yeah, oh yeah, they pay the sheriff. But look at this, we have, what, 9 million, 6 million with the sheriff of our own money on top of what we pay on the ad valorem. And we're fighting for some motorcycles here for the traffic sheriff. In general, the sheriff is great with crime. I'm going to give my 100 plus to him. But when it comes to traffic, we need more motorcycles here watching the speeders. And I will say that to Mr. Staley. He's a great sheriff, but we're still paying a lot of money for that. You're alleging safety. When do I hear to get all this additional personnel this year? Oh my God. And what is this? I hear capacity, more capacity, more capacity. This is because of growth, right? So I want to hear, how much do we get on impact fees and a new connects, right? Because growth versus what we have to pay for growth. And one of the things is this that I have to say. I never hear complaints about our fire department not serving us, not keeping us safe. They are doing a great job, but they want one more fire station there, one more fire station there. To me, it's like building castles to ourselves on the pockets of the taxpayers. And don't mean anything for Mr. Berryhill, please, but it's too powerful, this safety issue here that we have to find. You need to find out more reasons not for us not to pay such a high. And I pay higher taxes, sir, every year. Maybe because the county, not only because the city, maybe because the county.
Thank you for your comment. Any other public comment at this time? Seeing no one come to the podium, I will close public comment. Any final comment from city council members? Hearing none, just remind us again, City Manager, we come back and discuss this very topic when?
September 5th, 5:15 p.m.
5:15 in the evening.
Yes, sir.
Very good, thank you. All right, thank you, ladies, appreciate that. Do you have clear enough direction? I know you were given several different assignments. I would ask now if any of it's not clear. Are you good?
I believe so. Thank you.
Very good, thank you. All right, with that, we will move on to, let's see. Did public comment? Minutes of the prior meetings, we've got,
Oh,
yeah.
all right.
F4, minutes of the city council meeting, August 6, 2024. I'm looking for a motion
I'll
to
make a
approve it. A
motion
motion
to
from the
approve.
vice mayor to approve. Is there a second?
Second.
Second from Councilwoman Pontieri. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Are there any opposed? Clerk has the count.
The motion passes
Similarly, the meeting of August the 13th,
I'll make that
2024,
motion
a
to
workshop.
approve.
Vice mayor has made the motion to approve. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Councilwoman Pontieri. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Are there any opposed?
You guys wish.
The motion passes unanimously.
Very good. Okay, we move now to agenda letter G, which is ordinances of the first read. And council, I would ask you to please read that into the, sorry.
Sorry, Mayor, can we take a small break?
No, I'm so sorry. This would be a good moment, and I do apologize for not asking. So, it is now 1 o'clock, 1:30.
I don't, I'll leave it to the rest of council.
Oh,
I
what
don't
do you
need
think?
30 minutes, but I know we probably want to get through, through
120?
things. 120, is that okay
Vice
with
Mayor,
everybody?
120?
15 minutes, that's fine.
You want to do 1:15? Yeah. The
1:15.
sooner the better. That'd be awesome.
1:15, good with everybody? Okay, then I will adjourn the meeting, and we will re-adjourn at 1:15 PM. Sorry,
No, that's okay. I'm going to throw the flag.
thank you for that.
I'm going to do an abbreviated.